Hey, welcome into the Thursday edition of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley alongside Joe Rexrode and Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Hope everybody out there is doing well. Just a day away from Friday, so hang in there. We're almost there. Joe Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
Oh, doing okay. Doing it from home. Got to do it from home.
You do.
Don't trust the kids.
What did Brennan do?
No one did anything, but this should have been the plan all along. Katie's out of town, and I was like, hey, kids, get yourself ready for school tomorrow, okay? Everybody good? All right. Then I was like, you know what? That's a terrible idea.
Well, at least you realized it.
Of course, I mean, I don't know, like, if being a few feet away in this room is going to be that helpful, but at least there's show breaks. So
there is that.
Hopefully we'll make some parenting magic happen today.
That's right. Michelle, how are we doing? What's going on?
Doing good. Just one day closer to Friday. I'm going to Lexington Friday, so you know I'm always excited for that.
Have you secured any football tickets to this point?
No, it is sold out, and you cannot get a ticket for like under $200.
Taking on LSU this weekend, correct?
Yes. Yep. Coach O. Go
what a
Tigers.
matchup.
What was it for the Florida game? Was it not that hard to get Florida tickets?
No, I didn't go to the game. I was just in Lexington because it was like a last-minute thing.
Okay.
But, yeah, they're just so expensive to even go. You really take for granted those student tickets. It's like $50 for, season tickets. Yeah, that was a luxury that you didn't realize.
You can't stop that Kentucky football train once it gets moving. It's just expensive.
I guess not, man. Get a bigger stadium.
Shout out to Mark Stoops. Doing a good job. What are they, number 16 now after that win? Like number 16.
Yeah.
It's pretty good for Kentucky football.
That was a little bit of shade there. It's pretty good for Kentucky.
No, I'm just saying it's good. They're a good team.
Hey, if we're in the top 25, I'll take it.
I was about to say they're good. I meant no shade by it whatsoever. Joe, so you can probably take the rest of this segment off because I'm now going to read the Titans injury report. Are you prepared for this?
Yeah, I don't know if we have time.
All right, let's start with here is the following players who were on the injury report for the Titans yesterday in advance of their game against Jacksonville. Aaron Brewer, Jayon Brown, Tommy Hudson, Julio Jones, Brett Kern, Taylor Lewan, Racey McMath, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Danico Autry, Kari Blasingame, A.J. Brown, Bud Dupree, Rashaan Evans, Sharif Finch, Chris Jackson, Ben Jones, Jeremy McNichols, Roger Saffold, Jeffrey Simmons, Caleb Farley, Tier Tart. That is quite the list, Joe Rexrode, of injured players for the Titans as they head into this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, like mid-December, just give us the list of like the 3 guys who aren't on the list,
Yes.
and we'll just guess the injuries for everybody else. Yeah, it's I don't know, man, 21-4.
Jeez.
That's the funny thing is then you then compare it to to the Jacksonville side, and it's 21-4. So this happens like if a team is bad, and I think also especially injured, but a lot of times like a team's bad, inevitably you'll start talking about everything about it, like including like what about the strength program? Like strength coach is bad or what? Well, shoot, you remember Butch Jones, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean that was certainly that was a legitimate issue. I hate, and I've seen this before too, when there's like a lot of injuries, people are like, what is their training staff doing? Which I generally just reject that, like it's already bad. Like we're watching football games and then we're trying to, figure out what the heck they were thinking on this play or that play. Trying to like diagnose like the training staff for a team is just like, I mean, they're all medical professionals. Like what do you think they're doing? But I got to say, like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
It's just an incredible string of bad luck. Or maybe something needs to change. I just don't know what it would be, like, do you need to hit more in the preseason? I don't know.
Well, the thing I always go back to on these type of things, because I agree, like this happens a lot where a team goes through a rash of injuries and people say, well, good Lord, the strength coach, what's going on here? Like, to me, if it's like one consistent injury that's a problem a lot, that's when I start to look around and say, okay, why are all these people getting hurt in the same way? Like, what's going on here? But, I mean, you can pick your body part on this injury list with the Titans. It's all over the place of what's going on.
Yeah. Now, granted, I'm trying to think, how many hammies are we talking about? You do add. We know about the 2 hammies of high interest, right? But now you add another receiver with a hammy.
Yeah.
The beloved Nick Westbrook-Akina.
Yes.
And then Jeremy McNichols. Now, of course, McNichols was on that last week and still played pretty well. But offensive skill and hamstrings, I guess you could say that is definitely, a trend. But it's also kind of it's a reality of football. Like the guys who run really fast, usually the guys who get the hamstrings.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's all sorts of things. Let me look at. I just want to look at the Jaguars. What do they got? They got 2 guys who didn't practice. Roy Robertson Harris, don't know him, and Laurenti McCray, don't know him.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So you know what? Everybody's ripping Urban this week, but by golly, he's got a pretty healthy ball club.
Healthy squad.
How about that, Urban Meyer?
That's right. So the players who did not practice for the Titans on Wednesday, that would be Brewer, Jayon Brown, Tommy Hudson, Julio Jones, Brett Kern, Taylor Lewan, and Racing McMath, and Nick Westbrook-Akina. So all others were at least limited in practice yesterday. Those are the players that did not practice, including, as I said, Brett Kern, who continues with his right groin injury. Still very specific on which groin it is that's bothering Brett Kern.
Yeah, well, if it was his left groin, then he'd have a better chance of playing.
Yes.
So the fact that it's his right groin, since he's a right-footed kicker, not great.
But I guess there was good news for the Titans on this front yesterday. A.J. Brown was on the field, a limited participant in practice, and Bud Dupree was on the field as a limited participant in practice. I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the first time that Bud Dupree has practiced on a Wednesday.
You are correct. So that to me is those 2 things are the good news items. Now, I'm still not, I guess the way things have gone with Bud Dupree, I guess I would probably feel more positive about him playing based on him being out there on a Wednesday. You still don't know. Like with AJ Brown, I know that like we had a viewing period, obviously very early, and they're short during the season, but then he was out of there. Now again, then we left, so he could have come back for something, but he did the early individuals and stuff, and then he went in. So I mean, it's still a long way to go to feel confident that AJ Brown is actually going to play Sunday. But Bud Dupree, well, we'll see. Like if he's out there again today, then that tells me that he's probably that they feel like he's kind of gotten over a hump and is preparing to actually play in this game, which would obviously be a big deal for the Titans.
Yeah, would be a huge deal, and we'll see if he can be back out there again today. I was watching the videos that you all took yesterday of A.J. Brown running around in practice, and I get it. I'm not a doctor. I'm no professional, but I do just when he's dealing with a hamstring injury and he's running around cutting out there, I just start to wince every time I watch A.J. Brown run a route yesterday with those videos y'all had. Like, please do not re-aggravate your hamstring injury.
Yeah. Of course, the thing with those is it's like, in short areas and cutting and stuff, it's usually fine.
Right.
It's when you go full sprint, are you comfortable going full sprint, long stride for a period of time and then not have to worry about it, And
how do you replicate that, especially like at game speed in practice? That's always the thing that's just pretty much impossible to do.
Exactly. So it's like, well, it's not great, by the way, that you didn't even see Julio Jones. And by the way, I mean, you think about that now, a week later, and after everything that happened at the end of the Indy game and all the stuff we were talking about a week ago, And he's still not even able to be in practice. So, I mean, it's interesting how sometimes things just sort of blow up, and then now we can look back and say, so the hammy was actually a pretty serious thing. Maybe not serious, but it was a thing. It was a real thing. It was a hammy. Just tell us it was a hammy.
We'll see if Julio Jones gets any work. I think what you said yesterday may end up being the more likely route. Maybe one of them able to go on Sunday. Maybe that's A.J. Brown. I would still be surprised if both Julio Jones and A.J. Brown are able to go in this game against the Jags. We'll see. I mean, there's still some time. We could see Julio back on the practice field today, and maybe they both are able to give it a go. But right now it looks like A.J. Brown at least has got a chance coming up on Sunday to play in this game.
Yeah, and the Titans have a chance. I mean, they're not that far from having half their active roster on the injury report. I mean, you get six more guys on there, and you're there. So it's possible.
Our buddy Hibbs tweeting in said, "Let me get some Vols talk this hour, por favor." Hibbs, the Vols look great on Saturday. What a win, 62-24.
We're talking Vols today.
We're talking Vols today. I don't think it's going to be this hour, but we're talking Vols today. Make sure you stay tuned, Hibbs. We love you. We're off and running here. Go ahead.
We'll let you know, Hibbs.
That's right.
No, we'll let you know.
We're off and running here today on Robby and Rexrode. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on the Titans, continue to look at this injury report. What else is concerning? What's maybe some good news for the Titans on this injury report as they look ahead to the Jags? We'll talk about all that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Support Stars on Saturday, October 16th by running, walking, or boogieing in the Nashville Striders 21st Annual Shelby Bottoms Boogie 15K and 5K Run Walk at Shelby Bottoms Park. This event is perfect for the avid runner as well as the casual jogger, and you can also show your support and participate virtually. For more information, visit starsnashville.org. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, presented by Volunteer State Bank, conveniently serving Middle Tennessee with 13 locations. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Talking Titans, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Joe, obviously a lot to navigate through on the injury report yesterday for the Titans. There are 21 guys on the list, including some with limited participation and some with full participation. It is worth pointing out, Caleb Farley, a full participant in practice yesterday for the Titans. So good news on that front. I don't know at this point, even if he's able to play Sunday, how much of a factor he would be against Jacksonville, but good news that he's at least back on the field at this point. But, Joe, I continued to look at this list, and I think what immediately comes to my mind is this offensive line. You've got Ben Jones with a neck as a limited participant, Roger Saffold with a concussion in concussion protocol as a limited participant. Taylor Lewan and the toe is back on here. I don't know how worried you are about that. We saw that last week. He was able to go out there and play, but still a banged-up offensive line, including two guys that have just been fighting their way through injuries so far the whole year in Ben Jones and Roger Saffold. There's first mute for Joe today. It only took 15 minutes.
I can't believe that it's the win that I didn't have it in the first segment.
That's true.
I'm going for 21 to match the Titans injury list.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree that the offensive line stands out. I'm not sure, the Lewan thing, and I asked him about his injury yesterday, and he said, I got rolled up on and then didn't talk anymore about it. But, I mean, is it possible that was a factor in how he played Sunday?
Could be.
It's still not like you don't like to see a toe, like a turf toe, if that's what it is. That's a nasty injury. It's a limiting injury. Another thing that stands out is inside linebacker. Right now, Rashaan Evans, quad limited, so he probably is gonna be able to go, but you have him on there. And now you have Jayon Brown with a new injury. Of course, Jayon Brown has also been a hamstring guy, and he's now knee on there. So that's not great on the Jayon Brown front. And, just staying healthy obviously has been tough for him. Also, I mean, Aaron Brewer knee didn't practice. So you've got, Ben Jones, and we know that he's hurt a lot, and in a lot of games he's down, and last game I think it was the first series, right, that he's at first. It's interesting that this is neck, because when he came out of the game in the press box, they told us shoulder questionable, then he came back, but it looked like a neck to me. Like, it looked scary. I mean, he was down for a few minutes not moving, and you're like, what is going on there? And so now he's limited with the neck. I mean, he'll probably fight through it because he fights through everything, but it's not great. Like you said, Caleb Farley, that is good, that he's full, that he's back out there. So it's not like it's some huge long-term thing. And honestly, I don't think we're all that far from, if he can get himself there, from him potentially pushing to be on the field.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be good to see your first-round pick get on the field, and good to see him back on the practice field. Yeah, it is quite the thought there. But you brought up Aaron Brewer. I mean, we've talked about the interior of the offensive line. I mean, Ben Jones goes down, and Aaron Brewer comes in on Sunday against the Jets. And, look, I get it. He had a bad snap, but it's nice to have a guy like Aaron Brewer who you can put in at guard or at center if need be. And, look, if he can't play on Sunday, all of a sudden you're looking around and saying, all right, Dylan Radins, you ready to play some football? Because that could be the route you have to end up going at some point with Dylan Radins, and we'll see what happens. So the Aaron Brewer injury may not seem like that big of a deal to your average Titans fan, but that's something I think definitely to keep an eye on as the week goes on. Listed with a knee injury, did not practice yesterday. We'll see if that starts to change today and tomorrow leading into the game, because Aaron Brewer's a guy that I know he's not the first name that you list off in terms of importance with this group. He's a guy you need to have coming into this game.
Right. So, like you said, Dylan Raduns gets closer to playing. But then what if Ben Jones and Brewer can't go?
Yeah.
And it is good that they have Corey Levin on the practice squad because he could become a factor. Sharif Finch in concussion protocol. 1 week in, welcome to the team. He's in concussion protocol. So, of course, John Simon has been signed. Now, obviously, if Bud Dupree, if that is good news that actually unfolds Sunday, then that makes that a little less of a deal. And by the way, it's just so easy to lose people on here because it's so big. But Jeffrey Simmons back?
Yep.
That's not something you really like to see. Limited participation. I mean, limited participation is good. Anytime, to me, people are limited participation on a Wednesday, I think usually that speaks well of, their chances. Because Wednesday's kind of the day, I think, for the most part, that you would say, you got to take this one off. Now, all these DNPs, and we'll see if any of them get to limited today. If they're still DNPs today, then that kind of tells you you're probably not going to see them. Now, I say that, and we just mentioned Ben Jones, and he had plenty of DNP weeks last year, I believe, where I don't think he did anything. Maybe he might have been limited on like Friday stuff.
Yeah.
But then he played. But Taylor Lewan, Brett Kern. Hey, we joke about Brett Kern.
Oh, I don't joke about Brett Kern. I'm dead serious.
It's a big deal, to get him back. I mean, Johnny Townsend did recover from his 12-yard punt, but he had a 12-yard punt.
Yeah.
So, and even at tight end, Tommy Hudson, ankle. I mean, that position it's not like it's a bounty of talent and production, you're leaning on Michael Pruitt and Jeff Swaim. And the good news on that is there's actually no Anthony Ferkser, I think, for the first time this year.
Joe, do you recall ever seeing anything like this? I mean, it's week 5. We're week 5. They have 21 guys on the injury report. Now, obviously, we know, there are varying degrees of the, severity of some of these injuries. So, a lot of these guys probably are going to be available on Sunday coming up against the Jags. I don't recall, not only with the Titans, but I'm kind of looking around the league. Like, I don't recall ever really seeing a list where you've got 21 guys on the injury report by week 5. That's pretty incredible to me.
No, I've never seen it. I've never seen it this big. A few people were tweeting some other teams, like big lists, and there's some teams in the teens, which is, that's good. That's pretty good, but that's not list. 21. I think Diana Rossini of ESPN tweeted, "Is this real?" she saw the list, and she quote tweeted the list. Is this real? So no, I haven't seen, and it's not like the Titans. I think it kind of, maybe team to team, there's a little bit of difference, right? Like, even like obviously the Patriots they'd always put Brady on there, right? Just to mess with everybody. Maybe some teams are more likely to report than others, but the Titans haven't been. It's not like they're consistently boasting massive injury lists year after year under Vrabel. So no, it's something else. I guess you could look at it like, just wait till like Thanksgiving. Yeah. How bad will it be? Or you could look at it like, well, get them all out of the way now, and all these 3 hours of smashing into each other violence every Sunday, it'll get better, Yeah,
maybe the Titans will be really healthy coming down the stretch. Just getting them all out of the way now. Could be the strategy they use. Chris on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Can you put this list into perspective? Like, how does this compare to teams around the league? How many players do they have on their injury report? I'm not sure if 21 is normal or if a ton of people compared to what other teams report. Also, Brett Kern is the MVP. We know Brett Kern is the MVP. We respect that here on this show. To answer your question, no, this injury report is not normal. This is well past normal.
Yeah, we just told you the Jags have 4. I wonder if but this question brings up a good question for me. There's websites for everything. So is there a website for NFL injury reports?
It could be.
Just one place to put them all in.
You can access every injury report.
Well, look, NFL.com has a Week 5 injury report. How about that?
there you go.
Well, okay, but see now theirs is so they're doing that's the Friday with the designations.
It's not the same.
But covers, see, the gambling sites, that's where you go.
That's
okay. Right. You go to these. Okay. Yeah, I will look through. I will do some research during this upcoming break, and I will come back with some numbers.
We appreciate that. That's right. We'll do that on the other side.
Rather than me try to count it up now.
That's probably good. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on the Titans, including Mike Vrabel was asked about Urban Meyer yesterday and had quite the response. We'll get to that coming up next. Also have some tickets to give away on the other side as well. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube today and every day. Our video streaming brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Remember, FDIC, equal housing lender. We got some tickets to give away to see the Nashville Predators take on the Carolina Hurricanes coming up on Bridgestone Arena this Saturday. Be caller number 5 at 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Caller number 5 will win a pair of tickets to see the Preds take on the Carolina Hurricanes coming up at Bridgestone Arena this Saturday, October the 9th. Joe Rexrode, let's go to our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Tom from Spring Hill texting in says a few days ago Jared said that no one behind Jenkins on the roster could play like him, and I just wanted to know how dead wrong he is. Any DB in the league, in all capital letters, can give up 13 yards of completion and allow a 100-plus quarterback rating. Also, quit calling him Jackrabbit. If you suck as much as him, you don't deserve a nickname. This coming from Tom in Spring Hill. Not a big fan of Jackrabbit Jenkins so far, or excuse me, Janoris Jenkins.
Yeah, well, he hasn't been great. Now, I will actually agree with Jared on there's a little bit of a comparison here, because remember, the first, and it was more than the first four games, it was the first probably half of Malcolm Butler's first season here. It was like, oh my God, he's bad. And he was taking chances, and I think he was at times, just gambling too much, and he was getting torched. And he ended up being a pretty good player for the Titans. And I think Jenkins is their second best outside corner. Okay. I think Jenkins is better than Breon Borders. So, does that mean he's going to be great, or he hasn't been great so far? I mean, he's had his ups and downs, and their pass rush, has had its ups and downs too. But I will say that, like, that spot to me is where you want to see Caleb Farley make a push. You want to see that become a thing. It's also early to just say, there's absolutely no chance with this guy. He's never going to do anything. I mean, he's got to play better. There's no doubt.
Ben on the text line says, I respect you, Joe, but you can't just get the injuries out of the way. They could easily be hurt a lot later also as well. I think you know that, Joe. Yes, I was. Yeah, I was kidding, but yeah, I understand the frustration. So I'll tell you about the rabbit hole I just went into. Okay, for Chris's behalf. So I went to covers.com, and it was like injury report, for all these teams. And I'm like, okay, so I started counting them up, and it's like, okay, Bengals 13, Panthers 11, Cardinals 10. Like, wow, there's actually like pretty big numbers. And then I come to the Browns, 22. Oh man.
And I'm like, holy cow. There's actually a team with more than the Titans. And then I looked a little bit closer at the fine print, and that includes injured reserve players.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
So if you did that with the Titans, so to answer your question, Chris, so then I actually found it on NFL.com. Like the actual injury reports for yesterday, and yeah, most teams are around 6-7 guys. And there are some in double figures. In fact, the Browns actually are at 15. So that's
pretty high.
So it is high. But if you did, and I didn't even get to the Titans on this list because then I realized, it's including IR. If you did that for the Titans, let's see, 21.
Are you counting live on the There we go.
Yeah,
attaboy.
You like that?
Yeah, I did.
I did it without even mostly talking. The Titans would be at 34. So
oh my gosh!
if you include injury reserve along with the injury list from yesterday, so no, they are flat out leading the NFL right now. So congratulations, Titans.
That is not something that you'd like to be leading the NFL in. Speaking of injuries, what's the latest on Darrington Evans as practice begins yesterday and we look ahead to maybe him coming back this week? We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Marcus Johnson, based on him returning to practice and based on how he looked in practice, I was like, okay, so he's going to play Sunday, and he didn't. They didn't designate him to return on Saturday. So we're gonna have to wait and see with Darrington Evans, and I can't tell you that you got so much time. I'm used to my little routine of being right by the receivers, so I don't know really like how Evans looked yesterday, but the fact that he's out there is certainly a positive step, and we'll see. I would also think that Marcus Johnson, a week later, if he doesn't have any setbacks and he's not on the injury report right now, I would think that he would be back, and it could be obviously timely. I mean, no Julio Jones yesterday. Westbrook-Ikhine now goes on to the list.
Yep.
Certainly there's we know in general there's a need for some receiving help after what we saw Sunday.
So speaking of yesterday, Mike Vrabel on the podium yesterday, and obviously looking ahead to this game for the Titans against the Jags. It's a big game for the Titans, not only because you're 2-2, it's in the division, but also, as we've talked about, the schedule coming up, you've got some tough ones coming up here at the Titans. So lots of conversation on that yesterday, but also some comments on Urban Meyer as well, and the well-documented at this point situation that he's going through as they head into this matchup against the Titans. And Mike Vrabel was asked yesterday about Urban Meyer, whether he's spoken to Urban Meyer this week. Here was the response from Titans head coach Mike Vrabel yesterday at practice.
Conversations or texts with Urban through all these issues he's having either this week or even really since he's been in the NFL?
No, we haven't had any conversations since he's been in the NFL. We're focused on preparing this week and going down and trying to get healthy, trying to get ready for a new challenge.
What did you most take from your time with him, and what do you feel like made him so successful as a coach, at least at the college level?
I coached for him for 2 years at Ohio State, and I felt like I became a better coach. I was a young coach, focused on teaching, young players, and I felt like I improved at that. I learned a lot. We're at a different point in both of our careers now.
So that was Titans head coach Mike Vrabel yesterday, and it's really one of those situations, Joe, where I wish we could just see the video that goes along with it with some of these comments. You ask him the question about Urban Meyer, and Vrabel goes through his answer there. You listen to the answer. There's not really much there to pick from. It's just Vrabel kind of answering the question and moving along. There was a little bit of a hold looking at you on that question when it was asked.
He tried to burn a hole in my skull with his eyes.
It's like that meme where you see the person and just the flames coming out of their eyes, Joe.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, and that was one of those moments, with Vrabel. He's from the same area.
Sure.
Went to the same school. It's not as entertaining. Don't get me wrong. But he is like a modern day Bobby Knight. Like seriously, you got to stay with me on that.
Okay.
Bobby Knight. I was blessed enough to enjoy and ask a couple questions and get them just absolutely torn to shreds, but also just enjoy a few Bobby Knight press conferences.
Yep.
That's how long I've been around. And my goodness, physical intimidation was an underrated part of Bobby Knight's whole thing. He's a huge dude, and man, now of course Bobby Knight would just be sarcastically rip the hell out of everybody, which was just amazing. But Vrabel's got that Bobby Knight sort of like persona where he's huge and he just like, man, if he wants to glare at you, oh yeah, he's got a glare. So, we were joking yesterday after the show about I was going to ask about Urban, and I really didn't have any plans and then the presser's going on and on. Everybody's asking about, like off coverage and stuff. And I'm like, well, shoot, got to see what he says. I was interested to see, is there any sort of contact, but I wasn't surprised at the answer because, I mean, it's kind of obvious that, Vrabel was there for 2 years. It was a big part of the beginning of his coaching career. I don't think that there's like a super tight friendship there with Vrabel and Urban. So I don't know. Vrabel had to know that there was going to be some kind of question about Urban. He's playing Urban this week, right? I mean, it's better than like, hey, Mike, have you ever gone into that bar before? Or, Mike, what did you think about like Urban's finger placement on Friday?
Yes.
You know, I mean, the questions could have been way worse than that.
They could have, and thankfully, we didn't go down that road. Now, look, to your point, he had to know something was coming yesterday. I mean, that guy's made some news this week. You're going down to play against them, and look, if you're the Titans, you can't be worried about all that. But the video portion, if you've missed the video, go check it out, that the Titans put out yesterday of Rabel's response to your question, and just how long he holds his gaze on Rexrode after that question is pretty amazing.
I mean, I tried to hang in there. I looked right back, man. I looked right back.
I'm not backing down, Rabel.
I mean, there was no video on me, so I could sit here and lie and say, like, I like, you know, gave him the mean mug. And I was like, what, you want some? I didn't do that.
Yeah,
I didn't do that.
Not advisable, I would say.
No.
I think you could take them, Joe.
You think so? I doubt that severely.
Yeah, no, sarcastic asterisks right there.
Yeah.
Hey,
Although
I could take I got a strong chin. I could take one here, and then, you know, college is much more easy to manage.
I will say, after Sunday, I think there is another candidate in the can anybody approach beating up Vrabel pool in the NFL. We've talked about Dan Campbell, how maybe he's the biggest threat among NFL head coaches. Robert Saleh.
What you got?
Robert Saleh's a pretty big dude. He's in the category.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Saleh, if you had an octagon, you know, like Final Four,
he'd be in the Final Four.
It's probably Saleh, Campbell, Vrabel, and probably Tomlin.
Probably so. Yeah, probably so.
By the way, did you see Tomlin's quote yesterday about talking to Denver media?
No.
I saw it.
It's pretty awesome. I think we probably have to go to break, but it's pretty awesome, and it's just another example of why, like, the guy gets it. Also, where the hell's Urban with his press conference for Titans media this week?
Yeah.
Huh?
That's a good question. Well, look, Urban had another press conference yesterday as the Jags continue to try to prepare for the Titans. Another interesting one for Urban Meyer. We'll get into that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. That was Jaguars head coach Urban Meyer on a radio show a couple days ago. And then yesterday is speaking to the media as well. Urban Meyer continuing to be in the headlines as the Titans prepare to take on the Jaguars later this week down in Jacksonville. And Joe, Urban Meyer with some interesting comments yesterday. Obviously, the majority of his press conference had nothing to do with the Titans. It had to do with his issues that he's going through right now, including a quote that says, quote, "I had at least 3 or 4 conversations with Shad Khan. The message is loud and clear, and I agree with it. Also met with the team on Monday individually, and then today as a group. He had a very pointed conversation with them, owning a stupid mistake that I made. A job of a coach is, number 1, health and safety of a player. Number 2 is motivate them or bring out the greatness in them. And number 3 is give them everything possible to be successful and give them a great locker room and then get the heck out of the way." That was the quote from Urban Meyer yesterday at practice. And Trevor Lawrence speaking on the matter yesterday at practice as well, saying, quote, "I know a lot of guys respected it, how he addressed us this morning. Obviously, it's not an easy situation, and you don't want to be in the situation, but I think he's done right by us. And it was a good meeting this morning, just up front with us, and apologize." So I kind of feel bad for Trevor Lawrence in this situation. I'm not sure exactly what he's supposed to say about Urban Meyer as he goes through this process, trying to figure out life as a rookie quarterback in the NFL. But here we are, his head coach putting him in this position 4 games into his career.
So, Trevor, Coach mentioned your bachelor party. Did that anything bad happen there, by the way?
Any videos coming out on that one?
I'm glad that it's like, seriously, it's like, I really appreciated Coach Meyer's 11th apology. I think he finally really hit it out of the park on that one. Yes. He had to have a few practice runs. Oh man, it's like we need to get to a game. And also, I'm thinking about this. Of course, I'm going to be there Sunday, and I'm going to probably walk around the stadium a little bit. Like, is he going to be heckled at home? Like, is there going to be heckling at that stadium for Urban Meyer? Like, I mean, if you're a Jags fan, I assume most Jags fans were pretty excited when he got hired.
Yeah.
I mean, there was obviously, I think, warranted skepticism about the whole college to pro thing, but for the most part, pretty excited. No one can be all that surprised that they're 0-4, right?
No.
Now, granted, you have the Chris Doyle thing, you got the Tebow thing, you got the don't know the rules thing, you got some of the other dumb comments things. So, like, there's been a lot of stuff along the way, but what percentage of Jags fans are like out on Urban right now?
I would say it's probably somewhere in the 20s, 20-25%. I mean, some of it. I've watched them play. For the most part, other than the Bengals game, they really not looked all that good. I mean, so some of it is, all right, do you really believe? And I think it comes down to this question: not only if you're a Jags fan, but really at some point if you're Jags ownership and making decisions. Like, do you believe that the best path of developing Trevor Lawrence is with Urban Meyer as your head coach? If you believe that, then you keep him around. If you don't, then all this other stuff starts to matter more, because still, to me, the number 1 priority if you're the Jags throughout all of this is you've got to make sure that Trevor Lawrence continues to develop and becomes the player that you drafted him to be. If he doesn't, then you're up a creek as you move forward here. If he does, then you actually have a chance, regardless of who your head coach is, to navigate your way through this. That's, I think, the number 1 question that Jags fans have to answer. And we're 4 games in, so I can understand a Jags fan that says, you know what, I don't know if Urban Meyer's the right guy or not yet, but we've just not seen enough of a sample size yet at this point.
Right, but then how many of them, because of this, are like, oh, God.
Well, it could be.
Right, and, it's like, it's the locker room too. I mean, I absolutely love that in his earlier apologies earlier in the week, like, they just busted out laughing when he left the room. That just warms my heart, Yeah. So, but seriously, like, losing this locker room and just having a bad, I think that can be overstated because everybody's a professional and you're also playing, to put good things on film. You're playing to stay in the league. You're playing for your next contract, whatever it is. I mean, everybody has their own thing. This idea is like, well, I don't like the coach, so I'm just not going to play. Well, That doesn't happen. But you can still lose a locker room and lose steam and be worse for it. And if that happens, I don't think it'll be hard to tell this year. Well, but I think you're right that the Trevor Lawrence aspect of it is the most important thing.
Well, and honestly, I think the question of whether or not Urban Meyer's style of doing things is going to translate to the NFL was a valid question before all this stuff came out. And we talked about it a little bit here on the show of the way that Urban Meyer has operated in college. And you brought up yesterday, like the accountability that he tries to bring to the table in terms of like putting people on the spot and all this stuff. You know, there was an interesting conversation a couple of days ago on the Pat McAfee show. They've got Aaron Rodgers on every Tuesday. And they kind of indirectly asked him about this situation with Urban Meyer and just like what it's like in the locker room. And, you know, Rodgers talked about, you know, honesty is the number one thing you're looking for and transparency. And just, you know, when you've got a coach that I think it's pretty obvious that at this point, at least at some point to the media, definitely lied about what happened. And I assume he had a similar message with the individual meeting rooms that day. It's difficult to come back from that. And, you know, in college, there's like this healthy fear that you have of a coach because in some degree the coach is really responsible in some ways for what your future is going to look like. That's not really the case in the NFL. And, you know, Rodgers went on talking about how, you know, nobody in the NFL is calling the coach. It's Mike or it's Matt or it's Urban or that's what it is because you're both professionals. You're both paid to get a job done. So it's just kind of interesting hearing Rodgers lay it out that way and hearing some former players this week on ESPN talk about the dynamic of a locker room, which, again, even before all this stuff with Urban, I think was a valid question with him as to whether or not that was going to translate.
Well, I do think there are some guys in the Titans locker room who call Vrabel coach, but yeah, point well taken. I assume Rodgers calls LaFleur little Matty.
Yeah.
Pats him on the head.
Matthew?
Says, you stand over there and, you know, I'll
gives
throw
him,
the ball.
gives him a noogie.
Dimes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's and that's the thing. Like, I mean, it's not like Urban Meyer. I'm sure he fully, you know, investigated all this stuff, and he to a large extent knew what he was getting into. But it's still different when you're in it, and when you're losing. Again, this guy just an awful loser who. Obviously, I know that everybody makes fun of like the health stuff with him, but there has been. I mean, it's not like it's all completely male. I'm just getting out of this job now. But also, he's been quite despicable. And here he is despicable again. While we're piling on him this week, by the way, I mean, I haven't even mentioned. You know, I'm still maybe more mad than anything that he, you know, asked for my code to read, you know, the Athletic story last summer. So let's also remember as we pile on Urban. That he would not pony up, you know, $60 for the Athletic.
That's right.
Okay.
Texting Rexrode, asking for the promo code.
This is a joke, right, Joe?
No, it's dead serious.
Oh no, this is real.
Yeah.
So I emailed him the story. I wrote a 5,000-word story about him in Ohio State in 2012. I emailed it to him, so he liked it. I hope he's gotten a subscription now.
Well, he might be canceling all subscriptions this week. May want to avoid.
Fair. That's a good point. Yeah, stay off the internet. But speaking of the internet, have you seen the whole thing with Shelley Meyer? I mean, it's just amazing.
No.
Like, well, it's just hilarious. Like, we have actual stories written about tweets that she likes. You know.
Oh goodness.
But she's liking tweets that people are responding to her and saying like he doesn't deserve you. You're too good for him. Stuff like that. So she's liking those tweets for whatever that's worth. She also it is like she actually had a tweet out that night when he was at the bar with her like giving the grandkids a bath and like reading to them and stuff. So that's got to be nice for her. Like she's having this nice quiet night with the grandkids, and you know we know what Urban's doing at the bar. So, yeah.
Yes,
my goodness.
When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on the Titans. Looking ahead to this game against the Jags. Is this a must-win game for the Titans, even already in Week 5? We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Hour number 2 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Remember FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezvik here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Going to have Kayla Anderson from News 2 join us to begin the 8 o'clock hour. We'll get into this Titans and Jags matchup with her. Sheil Kapadia from The Athletic coming up at 9 o'clock to talk all things NFL. And we're taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Quick shout-out to my mom, Deborah. Happy birthday today.
Happy
October
birthday,
7th.
Deborah.
The birthday for Deborah Stanley.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Absolutely. Joe, let's go to our
You
text
got
line.
some baby you cooking for? You got some plans? Like, when are you
Yeah, we're going to eat. Going to eat. We're big going out to eat family.
Okay.
So doing that later tonight.
Cracker Barrel?
We're not going to Cracker Barrel. Going to a spot in Hendersonville that we like. So looking forward to
Robby's
that.
birthday would be Cracker Barrel.
That is correct. That is correct. Shout out. Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Dave in Big Rock texting in. Related, it might vary some, but when I looked last night, the Jags-Titans spread was only 4 points. How disappointed would you be if they didn't beat them by at least 2 scores? And Joe Rexrode, that leads us into what we're going to talk about in this segment. I know it's week 5, and quite frankly, like, I hear this phrase tossed around a lot, and most of the time it drives me nuts in terms of must win. But, Joe, I do kind of look at this schedule with the Rams and the Chiefs and the Bills coming up. I look at the Jags and everything going on this week, and I don't know if I'm outright willing to call it a must win. I think the term can't lose is what you used earlier this week. Maybe that's more appropriate, but Titans got to have this game. This is a game the Titans, there is no excuse, even with the injury list being at 21, or I guess at 34 when you count the IR guys. There's a lot of injuries for this Titans team. This is a game still that you need to have after going to New York, being embarrassed the way you did, losing that game, and everything going on with Urban Meyer this week. Titans need to win this game, and to Dave's point, I would like to see them win this game very comfortably.
Yeah, it's a can't lose. So I guess that's just like the negative way of calling something a must win. You can't lose. I mean, you can't lose to the Jets and Jags back to back. You can't. You can't and expect to be a good team, have a good season. You can't. It's still a long season after that. But like you said, first of all, the next stretch is just brutal. And by the time you see the Colts again in their place, potentially Carson Wentz will actually be able to move a little bit at that point. And that comes right after the Bills on Monday night, and the Bills look awfully good right now.
Yep.
And the Chiefs, both of those games at home. Then you go to the Colts, and then you get a nice Sunday night game in LA. So, and gosh, I mean, you keep going with the schedule. I mean, the Saints are completely all over the map, but certainly they could get you. The Patriots could get you at their place. I'm not ruling out the Steelers from anything. You got the Niners coming in, and you also have the Dolphins on the schedule, which is not a gimme. So to me, there's 4 games that are can't loses left on the schedule. You get 2 with the Jags, you get 2 with the Texans.
Yep.
You better be 4-0.
Yep, absolutely. And look, I said it yesterday. Zach Wilson comes out in the fourth quarter and plays really well, and he makes you pay. There's absolutely a path to Trevor Lawrence doing that. I can see Trevor Lawrence having a big game in this game right now, but I don't care. If you're the Titans and you're anywhere near the team that we think you can be, you can't lose this game against Jacksonville. With everything going on this week, with the distractions that they're going to have, I have no clue how that's going to affect Jacksonville on the field. My guess is it can't really be a positive thing for Jacksonville as they head into this game, and they're not a very good team to begin with. You just need to go in there and take care of business. Like, this is a get-right game that we've seen the Titans play a lot over the years, where you come out, you don't play well the week before. Typically, this group has been able to respond pretty well in most situations to that. To me, there's no excuse not to do that coming into this game this week, so we'll see if the Titans are able to do that. Let's go back to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Marty texting in. Who does a better job of blaming the world and all in it for his team losing rather than himself? Is it Urban or is it Dan Mullen? That is an interesting question. Both pretty good at that. Both on the same staff together for a long time.
Yeah. And how about that? And the Florida connection. Maybe it's a Florida thing. Yeah, well, we talked a little bit about the whole Dan Mullen, were you out coach, which again, like it's a very trolling question.
It is.
I mean, I think it's inherent losing, but still, the answer that most coaches give on that is, well, yeah, we got outplayed, got out coach, got to coach better, got to play better, move on.
Oh, yeah.
Instead, he's like, well, actually, whatever the heck he said, tell us all the reasons.
Here are the yards that we had, and here is the penalties that we have, which, by the way, penalties are a part of coaching. When your team has 15 penalties, like Florida did the other night, and that is not an exaggeration, 15 penalties. That's a little bit on coaching, my friend.
That's not coaching. That's SEC refs cheating.
Yeah, that's
right?
what it is.
That's what it's got to be.
That's right.
But yeah, Urban. I'm trying. See, that's the thing with Urban is we haven't had much experience of really knowing how he handles losing. I mean,
right.
This is like 3 college seasons worth of losing for him already.
Yeah.
So I guess I can't necessarily recall him. I haven't seen him be like Mullen is with that stuff. It's like so defensive that you're just. It's just like take the microphone away would be the best thing. To me, the Urban. I mean, there's still like, well, Urban and Vrabel and those guys. They lost to Michigan State in the Big Ten championship game. That he was in the tunnel that night, sadly eating pizza on a golf cart. Which of course is still like a favorite thing that's passed around the Big Ten. He just takes it really hard. And man, there's more to come. And there better be, and for the Titans' sake, that better. I don't know about 2 scores, but yeah, like you don't want to even be in like some fourth quarter. You got to drive the field to kick a winning field goal type game with these guys. You really shouldn't be in that game with these guys.
No, you can't let them hang around, and that's part of what the Titans did last week. I mean, what's lost in the Titans game and how disappointing it was, and it was against the Jets. They had a chance in the first half. Probably to completely put that game away, and they just blew it. And you can't do that in this game against Jacksonville. If you've got an opportunity to put them away, you need to put them away. And look, everybody knows what the game plan is going to be for the Jags, or what at least they're going to try to do. I don't know that they've tackled Derrick Henry since he set foot in the league. So, I mean, you feel good about that if you're the Titans heading into this game, that Henry's probably going to have another big game and a monster game down there. But when you get into the red zone, you can't be snapping the ball over your head and having penalties and taking a delay a game on 3rd and 5. Like, this is a game where when you have your opportunities, you've got to finish, and don't give Jacksonville any life whatsoever. So that's what I'm looking for on Sunday from the Titans. Heidi from Dixon texting in. They will win by 2 safeties. That's 4 points and 2 scores. So Heidi buys the 2 scores. Just says it'll be 2 safeties. There you go.
Okay. All right. I guess that does technically count.
Does count.
Very good.
Trent texted again. If Trevor Lawrence has a day and the Jags pull out a win, I expect Shane Bowen will no longer be the defensive coordinator. Is there any scenario where the Titans lose this game on Sunday and either one of the coordinators are out? I say no.
Yeah, I don't. Vrabel does not strike me as someone who is going to succumb to like public pressure and fire someone. If things got really, really bad, when things get really, really bad, sometimes that comes from above. Like someone's got to be held publicly accountable. That'd be really interesting, even on that front. We know what happened with Malarkey and Terry Rubisky. I suspect Vrabel would not sacrifice a coordinator for his own job. I mean, Vrabel's got plenty of money. He'd get another job. So the same thing happened with Munchak here, right?
Yep.
Wouldn't sacrifice assistants. I don't think Vrabel would do that. I don't think that he would say you are the problem. Now, look, if it's actually the case that one of these coordinators, Shane Bowen is just showing up to work late and these game plans are terrible, and he was in the bathroom in a defensive series, didn't call the plays. What if it was some kind of gross, misconduct on the job or something, or just like complete incompetence maybe. But if they get torched on D, I mean, again, Shane Bowen has to be accountable for that. There's a huge difference between Dean Pease and Shane Bowen and all that. But again, man, like it's so much of this is about players. And I think it goes more to the GM scouting side right now with this team's issues than the coaching side. Not saying that the coaching side doesn't have anything to do with it, but I drift more toward all the misses they've had recently in terms of personnel.
We'll continue the conversation on the Jags and the Titans when we come back, including Jaguars Wire put together a little interesting exercise on which Titans player they would take as a member of the Jags. We'll do that for each team in the division. Which member of the Jags would you take for the Titans? We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. .1025 The Game has your chance to win Preds tickets during the month of October. Just post a picture of your radio dial set to 1025 The Game on social media, and you can tag the game and use hashtag TicketDash to be instantly qualified to win. Once again, that hashtag is TicketDash. Show us your dash, brought to you by Social Furniture. Support local, support social. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank, now with 2 locations in Murfreesboro. Visit their brand new Murfreesboro location at 2019 Memorial Boulevard. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Joe Rexrode, some breaking news on the NFL front for Titans fans maybe that were interested in former Cowboys linebacker Jalen Smith. He has reached a 1-year deal with the Green Bay Packers. Jalen Smith now signed with the Packers.
Really?
He has.
And your reaction to that is what?
I wonder where they're going to use him because they are at the moment pretty well set at linebacker. I wonder if they try to use him coming off the edge. Devondre Campbell has played very well at linebacker for the Packers. I wonder if they use him coming off the edge.
Well, if they do and he's effective, then we can go back and say, you should have signed him, Titans.
That's right.
But at least that didn't last long, like the Gilmore, Jalen Smith thing, because obviously any sort of recognizable name becomes available, and it's like sharks to, blood in the water. So
the Gilmore thing was quite interesting yesterday. Looks like he's going to be released by the Patriots, and then in the 11th hour, they get a 6th-round pick back for Gilmore. He goes to the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, so they were just making it known that he was not going to be retained. Although I guess it's not a great leverage thing, but it's still you get something out of it. So, yep, that's and we had an argument yesterday on another big win for me, by the way, over Jared about should the Titans have looked at him, and I actually I think it was worth kicking the tires on.
Sure,
I think it was worth looking at him. It's not like they haven't acquired other older corners, and they've with some success. I think Butler was a pretty good acquisition. Logan Ryan was younger, but he was also, I think, a good acquisition. Stephon Gilmore could have helped, but you've got to hope at that position that your 1st-round pick at least gives you reliable depth, and that your 3rd-round pick can get himself back in the good graces of coaches. I think you've got the material there to be fine at corner. And that's saying that after the freaking Jets torched them. But
Corey Davis.
Yeah, well, that's a top 100 player.
Yep.
By the way, on the text line, I've lost it, Robby. I wanted to get to this real fast. And I'm sometimes I go to the text line and I see something and then I can't find it again. It's kind of weird how that thing works, the app works. But someone put up there, to paraphrase, really, why do we have to talk about, like Shelley Meyer and all the family stuff? And I will say, in all seriousness, we joke and laugh, and it's all this, this ridiculous story. But it does suck. I mean, it sucks to see a family, affected like this. It's not their fault, not Shelley Meyer's fault. It's not the grandkids' fault or the kids' fault. It's an unfortunate reality of being a public figure. And I mean, I'm really, really a public figure. So, I do appreciate and acknowledge that text.
Yes.
Also would say, again, what are you doing, Urban? It brings it back to that. What the hell were you doing? Yeah,
it's a great question. Absolutely a fair question, and good point on the text line as well. Joe, Jaguars Wire, which is a part of the USA Today network in the NFL, they came out with a story yesterday, and I guess they do this every week before the Jags play a game, and I guess this probably says more about the Jags than really anything else. They do a piece called, quote, "Gimme Him," and it's one player to steal from the Tennessee Titans. So I guess with the Jags roster being what it is, Jags fans just dreaming about one player they could take away from the Titans. And I saw this headline, and I thought to myself, well, yeah, it's going to be Derrick Henry. I know it's going to be Derrick Henry. And then I open it up. It's not Derrick Henry. It's Julio Jones, the one player that the Jags would like to steal from the Titans. They would like to have Julio Jones. So, number one, your reaction to that, Julio over Derrick Henry. And number two, is there any player that Jacksonville has that if you're the Titans, you'd like to steal and put on your team?
I would assume, their backs are, Robinson's fine. But, yeah, that would be the right move. The right move would be to take the great player, dominant player in his prime over the great player right, a little past his prime, dealing again with a hamstring a second straight year. And it's like actually like their receivers. I mean, Marvin Jones, Shenault, Chark. I mean, they're not bad, you know.
No.
I mean, I think you improve your team more with Derrick Henry. I mean, Derrick Henry's the right answer. So that already it's dumb. But I will tell you, yeah. I mean, I'd look at those tackles, those offensive tackles. Might look at Jawan Taylor. Might look at Cam Robinson. However, that might fit into your team.
Yeah.
I'd look at maybe Josh Allen too. I mean, you know, of course, we can't have too many Kentucky football players on your team.
Just keep stacking them up.
We love Josh Allen. He's great.
Yeah. I mean, so those three come to mind for me. You got anybody different?
No, that was Cam Robinson was the name that came to mind to me. I mean, I guess you could say Trevor Lawrence, but Tannehill's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, right now at this moment, I'd rather have Tannehill be my quarterback
for sure
than Trevor Lawrence. Now that may not be the case a couple years from now, but yeah. So yeah, the Jags have value too. See, was there anybody on the Texans you'd want?
That's what I was thinking about. Like with the Texans, is legitimately, do they have anyone that I would rather have at that position? I don't know. I don't know. It's certainly not Davis Mills. I can tell you that.
I mean, no, he would not be. He would not be the choice.
I mean, does Deshaun Watson count?
I mean, again, you can go like up front. Like every team has at least like a good offensive lineman, right? Like good offensive lineman. Yeah, I mean, Deshaun Watson. I suppose you could make that case. You know, the Titans. Everybody thought they were going to draft Laramie Tunsil back when they drafted Jack Conklin.
Yes,
I don't know. Do you like him?
What a draft day that was.
I mean, I would look at a Zach Cunningham for the Texans.
The list is not long for the Jags and Texans, I think is what we've discovered. There's several on the Colts that you could choose, but the list not very long for the Jags and Texans.
Yeah, in fact, we had to do something like this at the Athletic before the season. Now that I think about it, and I'm trying to remember who I picked for the Colts. I actually picked someone from the Colts. I think it was probably Buckner. I mean, imagine. Yeah, you know, obviously Buckner, Buckner and Autry together last year. Now it's Autry and Simmons. Buckner and Simmons. Imagine that. By the way, Simmons has been a very, very talked about player this week, as we talked about on our show.
Yeah,
because Kenston went to the blame Jeffrey Simmons thing, and then Buck is yelling at him, and there's a lot of people yelling at each other about this. Like to me, that's one of those like the extremes on Jeffrey Simmons are both wrong. He's been good. He's, I think, on his path to getting his option picked up, and he's been a good player. He's a very important player. He takes on a double team every single play. Also, he's not Aaron Donald Jr. I mean, we haven't seen that. Like, you have to make more plays and wreck games to be even mentioned in the same breath with a guy like that. Now, NFL players clearly respect Jeffrey Simmons based on that offseason poll. But again, like right now, what we're seeing, I think we're seeing a good player who, frankly, I think the Titans could use more from him.
Has Jeffrey Simmons lived up to being the 19th overall pick in the 2019 draft?
I'd say he's right in the. I think he's right in the neighborhood. Yeah, I mean, I think he's close. I can't sit here and say, "Oh my God, no way, that was a miss." It wasn't a miss.
No.
But again, like I think a lot of this season, it's guys like that. If this team's going to come close to being what it thinks it can be, it's guys like that who are going to be really good. He's got to be really good and healthy. And again, it's like he's one of those 21 on the injury report right now with a back. Just never like seeing back on the injury report.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Raymond texting in. Take a tight end or a kicker on the Texans and the Jags. It could be a good path. Tight end or kicker.
That's actually, that's the interesting thing. Yeah. Farrell Brown, Jordan Akins. Yeah. I mean, they drafted Brevin Jordan, of course.
They did.
Who was one of those possibilities. Fairbairn as a kicker. He's He's good, I guess.
Probably not going to get a whole lot of practice this year.
Would you take? Well, right, but like, would you take him for the Titans? I mean, there's nobody on the Jags. Like, they're starting tight end as Chris Manhertz. You know,
Tebow.
Which, yeah, there you go. Josh Lambo, their kicker. He's
fine.
He's good. He's good. I guess you could take one of those guys who's been like a starter for either of those teams forever, and you're probably going to be better off than what you've been doing. So yeah, that's a good call. Always forget the kickers. Always neglect the kickers. Man.
That just kind of doubles down on how the Titans. There's no excuse to lose this game coming up on Sunday. That was the exercise that we've just done there.
Yeah, fair point.
Jonas is partnering with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Societies Light the Night. Light the Night brings light to the darkness of cancer through hope, research, and support for patients and their families. Through this inspirational nationwide movement, we raise awareness and funding for groundbreaking research and treatment options to eliminate cancer. Nashville's Light the Night will be virtual and take place on November the 4th. Learn more at lightthenight.org/TN. When we come back, we will switch gears, get into the Nashville Predators. Hard to believe, but now 1 week away from opening night for the Predators in the regular season. What is the opening night lineup going to look like? I'll take a stab at that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank, conveniently serving Middle Tennessee with 13 locations, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Also streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Our video streaming brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. We are 1 week away, Joe Rexrode, from the beginning of the regular season for the Nashville Predators. They open up on October the 14th. Against the Seattle Kraken. Callie Yarncroke and the Kraken coming to town, and it's hard to believe, Joe. Here we are a week away from hockey season. It sneaks up on you.
Unbelievable, man. I mean, it's cool. Don't get me wrong, it's cool.
Oh, we're all here for it.
I'm so not ready. So not ready for it. Not ready for hockey, not ready for hoops, not ready for the baseball playoffs. Like, we just started football.
Well, you better get ready for all three of those things because they're right here on us. So the Kraken next week on Thursday at home to open up the season for the Predators, which, by the way, we'll talk about that a little bit more coming up here in just a few minutes. But I'm going to take a stab at what I think the opening night lineup is going to look like for the Predators. There's still some moves to be made, some cuts to be made, but I think the opening night lineup in some degree is kind of set. And what I mean by that is this. I think we know what the first line is going to be. I think it's going to be Forsberg, Johansson, and Duchesne. I think the second line is going to have Mikael Granlund centering the second line, at least to start. And I think Tolvanen's going to be a part of it. I think they'll have Luke Cunnin with Granlund as well based on the chemistry that they have. So my top six heading into the season is Forsberg, Johansson, Duchesne, and then Tolvanen, Granlund, and Luke Cunnin to round out the top six. On the third line, I've got Nick Cousins, Cody Glass, and Philip Tomasino. And then the fourth line, Tanner Jeannot, Colton Sissons, and Yakov Trenin. Joe Rexrode, do you like my opening light forward group that I put together?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly what I would guess. You know, you put Cousins with the two rookies. You hope that can be a nice combination, and obviously you hope that Glass and Tomasino can really build something good. And I don't know I have no idea if there's any indications that there's a good chance of that, but I mean, I think that makes sense. And obviously the one guy who's, there's no Rocco Grimaldi, which is not a surprise. And the one guy who, I guess some people would have in their lineup would be Matthew Olivier, the Bloxy Bowl. You've got him out. So there's a little bit of a Wally Pips situation with Jeannot. And him, but then you get to the question of, as we've discussed a little bit, does John Hines love that line so much that he wants it to spread to other lines, as he did in the first game one against Carolina?
Well, look,
that's another thing to look at.
I can go on and tell you, there's going to be a point this year. It's going to happen in some games where all four of those guys are in. Like, I fully believe that we'll see some games where Jeannot, Olivier, we know Sissons and Trenin are going to be into it. And honestly, I think Trenin has gotten to the point where he's an everyday player for you. So to me, if you're going to rotate some, it's probably going to be Olivier and Jeannot. I mean, the question is, to justify that, can either one of those guys take a step offensively? And for that matter, can Trenin take a step offensively? Because if Trenin can do it, I can see him moving up the lineup. I can see a guy like Jeannot moving up the lineup. I don't think that Matthew Olivier really has much more of an upside than a fourth liner, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, playing the fourth line role is good, but I think we'll see some games where, depending on the matchup, depending on obviously the health of the team as well, you'll probably see all four of those guys in there at the same time at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I thought with Olivier, at times you saw some skill, you saw some upside, and then certainly it's just interesting with Jeannot. Given where he came from, I think that's a big hang up people have with Jeannot, is there just wasn't a lot of indication that he was going to be anything but a guy who's just struggling to fighting to get in the league and be a bruiser for you. But what we saw, I thought, was a guy who actually has some nimble feet and some nice hands and some ability to maybe score the puck a little bit for you. So to me, he's a great example of, sometimes you just don't know until you actually see a player in this environment. Sometimes they're better than than they're. We always talk about guys who you're supposed to be this, and it takes you forever. You're just not that good. You come to this level, and it just you're a great AHL player, but you're not quite. Sometimes there are guys who get to the NHL, and it's like actually this guy's better than people think he was. And maybe Jeannot is that guy.
Well, he could be, and obviously the Predators feel very strongly about him because they protected him in the expansion draft. Now, the counter argument to that could be, well, yeah, they protected him in the expansion draft because who else were they going to protect? I mean, you could have protected Calle Jarnkrok. I mean, I think they really like Calle Jarnkrok as well, but they felt pretty strongly about Tanner Jeannot. So I'm interested to see what sort of a role that maybe he can carve out for himself as the season goes on here. I mean, in an ideal world, I still don't think you want Tanner Jeannot in your top 6, and I don't expect that he's going to be in the top 6, but he did show some offensive upside last year, which I think you're excited about if you're a Predators fan. The defense is interesting to me because there are a lot of names towards the bottom that are kind of fighting for a spot, and it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. I think the obvious first pairing to me is Josi and Carrier. I think that's the way they're going to start. You saw them together the other night in the preseason game as well. I think Ekholm is going to start with Myers. I know he played with Fabro the other night, but John Hines was pretty vocal after the game Saturday on what he likes about the Ekholm-Myers pair, and both of them are obviously pretty big. They've got some size. They can both move pretty well. So I think they might start with Ekholm and Myers, and then you'll have Fabro on the third pair. And that's going to be really interesting because I think their 6 best defensemen are the 5 guys that I just mentioned, and then I would throw Matt Benning in there as well. But it's also a situation where if you get down to the third pair, both of those guys are right-handed. And we know how much the Predators like to have kind of that left-right combo. So do you start with Mark Borowiecki? I think maybe they do. I think you're going to see them start with Mark Borowiecki and Dante Fabro as the third pair, and we'll see if Fabro can work his way up after that. I think you're going to see some shuffling around the first couple of weeks with defense, maybe with the exception of Josi Carrier. That looks like it could be pretty solid, and I think you might stick with that, but you could see some shuffling outside of that. But for the first time in a long time, I think there's some real intrigue of especially the second pairing and the third pairing, what that's going to look like heading into this year.
So do you think that's ideal for Fabro to be third pairing to start this season and sort of just, a little bit less pressure, a little bit less ice time, and just see how it goes?
I do.
With the idea that he should ideally would move himself up at some point.
Yeah. I mean, you're hoping that as he continues to play this year, that he shows you that he is a top 4 defenseman and that you move him up at that point. I think this is a huge year for him. There are a lot of questions about him in terms of, it's pretty obvious the Predators in the offseason told him to get stronger. And they told him that in order to play the minutes that we want you to play, you're going to have to find a way to win more puck battles, because I think there's a lot that Dante Fabro brings to the table in terms of, skating, making quick decisions, getting the puck up ice. Like he made on Saturday a great outlet pass. It was like a 110-foot pass right up the neutral zone to spring a 2-on-1, and the Predators score on the play. It's a great pass. Like he's really good at getting his head up and sending the puck up ice that way. But you've also got to be able to push people out in front of the net, and you've got to be able to go in the corner and come away with the puck. And too often, Fabro goes in the corner, and the other team comes away with the puck. So he's really got to get better in that area. I think he's worked on it, and we'll see when the regular season begins how much progress he's made. But if he's not gotten significantly better there, it's going to be pretty hard to have consistent minutes in the top 4 if you can't win those battles.
Well, it also seems to me like, and again, this could be just pressing, or it could be a number of things. Ultimately, it comes back to the individual. I just feel like he made a lot of bad decisions last year.
Yep.
That were costly, But like that is in a wonderful sports cliche, like right up there with culture. I mean, I think a lot of that is quote unquote fixable. I mean, it should be. It's not like it's some sort of deficiency you can't overcome. He just didn't, like, at times just didn't play well, and he fell out of favor. And then to your point, obviously you got to be more physical, and it's clear, like John Hines Not that any hockey coach doesn't value physicality, right? But I think John Hines maybe values it more than some.
I would say so. I think that's been pretty clear based on what he's done so far as the coach. John in Thompson Station on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Who's not making the team? I think Connor Ingram at the goaltending position will be down in Milwaukee. So, by the way, Joe, I've got UC Saros as the starting goalie coming up next Thursday.
Yeah.
That one checks
wondering.
Yeah, I think he's going to be in there. David Riddick will be the backup. I've got Michael McCarron not making the team. I don't think Igor Afanasyev, as well as he's played, I'd like to see him in Milwaukee to start, so I don't think he's going to make the team. You know, the Predators love Ben Harper, but if you've got Mark Borowiecki and he's healthy, I just don't really see a role for Ben Harper. And quite frankly, like if you put Ben Harper on waivers, I think there's a pretty good chance he'd be able to clear and you could send him through. So I've got Ben Harper not making the team, and I think they're going to carry 8 defensemen. Or excuse me, I think they're going to carry 7 to start. And I've also got now I'm blanking on who's not making the team along with him. I have to go back and look at the list.
Well, I'm glad that we got this segment. We got to the point where, again, you demonstrate that you're a Harper hater. I mean, I'm glad we can bring that back from last season.
It's not a Harper hater. I was a good Branson hater.
But you were kind of a Harper hater, too.
Well, look, Ben Harper, nice depth defenseman to have. Ben Harper should not be an everyday NHL player. He just shouldn't be. If your team's going to be good, Ben Harper should not be in the lineup every night. That's just the way I feel about it. Maybe they feel differently.
Hashtag Harper hater.
I guess so. We'll continue the conversation on the Predators when we come back. Take more of your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, including a very intriguing Predator on the ice that, if he takes a big jump this year, could make a huge difference in this team and their bottom line. We'll get to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Tune into the NFL Game of the Week on 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue. The Game of the Week this Sunday, the Cleveland Browns taking on the LA Chargers. Kickoff is set for 3:05. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank, conveniently serving Middle Tennessee with 13 locations. Remember, FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Thursday morning. Going to be joined by Kayla Anderson from News 2 to begin the 8 o'clock hour. We'll get into the Titans with her. Right now, talking Preds, taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. By the way, John texting back in, Jeremy Davies was the name I was looking for that I could not come up with last segment. I don't think he's making the team either. So there you go. Those are who I have not making the team.
A guy who definitely I think could be a nice player.
Yeah. Don't know if he's quite ready yet, but I think certainly something to be excited about. So, Joe, speaking of things to be excited about, if you're a Predators fan, we talked about it last year. Eeli Tolvanen turned into quite the weapon on the power play for the Predators last year. He finished with 11 goals, 22 points in 40 games, and now has signed another contract with the Predators at the age of 22. I expect him to have a pretty consistent top 6 role this year with this Predators team. So, Joe, I ask you, in an 82-game season, a full season, what are fair expectations for Eeli Tolvanen this year? And is 20 goals a fair number to expect from Eeli Tolvanen this year?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's any question. And really, like, if you look at the way the team's made up, like, it's also probably a necessity if you want to be competitive. But yeah, I think Eeli Tolvanen is a 20-goal scorer, and should be expected to be that over several years. Again, this is the expectation. It's also, I think it's a reasonable hope given how he played before he got hurt last year. I mean, on the power play alone, I think he's going to be a weapon. And so I don't think that's like, now 30. Okay, now maybe you're getting a little bit lofty there, but am I out of line there? I think 20 goals plus for him should absolutely be the expectation.
If you told me right now that he was going to be healthy for the most part the whole year and he didn't reach 20 goals, that would be a pretty massive disappointment. Like, Eeli Tolvanen, he needs to flirt with 25. Like, I'm not willing to go to 30 yet because I still think there's a lot of work he's got to do 5-on-5 to where he can be a consistent enough threat to get to 30. But with that shot, like, he's absolutely going to be a weapon on the power play. You know, he let one rip the other night against Tampa from that same spot in the left circle that we saw last year. And he destroyed the puck and went right off the top of the crossbar before the goalie even turned his head around. So the shot is still there. That's going to be a weapon. I guess my biggest question is, can he figure out a way 5-on-5 to be more consistent? You know, I thought, and he did. He took some steps in that area last year where he was more reliable. You know, I was kind of impressed and surprised by how physically at times he played last year. Now, can he take yet another step in that area and get to those harder areas where you've got to score goals? But, yeah, if you told me he was going to be in the top 6, he's going to play 75, 80 games this year, and he doesn't reach 20 goals, I think that's a reason to be pretty disappointed if you're a Predators fan. And I think you're going to see him play with some different people this year. Like, there'll probably be times when he's playing with Johansson. I mean, I think there'll certainly be times when he'll play with Granlund. You might see him with Cody Glass. I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of different players that he plays with this year, but I think 20 goals is a reasonable expectation, and if he doesn't reach it, that'd be pretty disappointing to me if I'm a Predators fan.
I mean, he's one of those guys who he has the one thing, you know, that is elite, that everybody knows that you want to get to that thing of his and that it will absolutely help you, you know, win games. And very few people, you know, can shoot the puck like he can. So yeah, I mean, if he's healthy, of course. Well, if he's not healthy, that's also bad. But if he's healthy and he doesn't approach that or get there, then yeah, like I'm trying to make the numbers work for this team. Obviously, so much of the expectation around this team I think like Vingan said yesterday, it's almost like people are sort of like, yeah, move like Duchesne, Johansson, yeah, sure, fine.
The vibe I get, like people don't even want to have a Johansson Duchesne discussion because they're that tired of it.
pretend they're not there. But
right.
but those guys absolutely both could have bounce back seasons, and then everything looks better. But I think even if they do, for this team to be really good, yeah, Tolvin is one of those guys who you got to be able to count on in that top six to produce.
Ben on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. How much can we improve our farm system this season? We're not going to make it to the Cup, so can we make any decent trades for picks or prospects at the deadline? Well,
I got an idea.
You can make some trades. I can tell you a couple that could be traded that as of now are not under contract for next season. Now, I think if you're the Predators, you'd certainly like to have both Matthias Ekholm and Philip Forsberg under contract. And by the way, Adam Vingan pointing out the other day that as of now, conversations between Forsberg and the Predators still have not taken place, according to Forsberg's agent.
So what if the Preds are in the 8th spot? They're holding on. They're fighting. They're decent. They're in the 8th playoff spot. The deadline's approaching.
Yep.
And there's still nothing with Forsberg. I mean, like, I know what we'd be saying. I think most fans would be saying. But would the organization be saying that like you have to be smart now and you have to sacrifice a playoff spot and not just lose that guy for nothing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair question. My answer is always going to be, and this was with Granlund too, like you can't lose him for nothing. And ultimately, they didn't trade him, and they ended up re-signing him, and maybe that's what happens with Forsberg. I don't know. I'm not risking losing Philip Forsberg for nothing. Even if you're right on the playoff edge, like you can't lose that guy for nothing. Based on nothing more than like the return you could get back for him would be pretty big. And like you can't lose either Ekholm or Forsberg for nothing. Now, I would assume that one of them are going to be under contract at some point here relatively shortly into the season. Like, I'm kind of honestly surprised that Ekholm's not under contract yet, especially when you hear his comment saying if it was up to him, like he would have signed a contract yesterday. Well, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, what's going on there? Like, what is so difficult about getting this done then? So, like, I'm still pretty confident Ekholm's going to sign at some point. I don't know about Forsberg, and I get it. The temptation is going to be there, especially if he's having a good year and you're right on the edge of the playoffs. You're going to be tempted to just leave it how it is and maybe try to make a run, but you cannot lose that guy for nothing. It cannot happen.
What if they're actually having a surprisingly good year and he's having a great year and they're like, like trending toward hosting a playoff series to start the playoffs? Same thing. You let it ride? Let it ride?
I don't know, man. That's tough. I guess, I mean, I certainly entertain the argument for letting it ride more than, but I mean, you would have to me, in order to let it ride, you have to have more than just a hope that you can win a Stanley Cup. You have to have we feel great about our chances to make a deep playoff run. And with this roster being what it is, I don't know that they even have the potential to get to the point where you just say, you know what, I feel awesome about this team and the chances to win a Stanley Cup. Could they be a playoff team? Sure. Could they be a competitive team and a good team? Yes. Can they be an elite team with this group? I have my doubts about that.
What if Duchesne and Johansson are in the middle of career years, along with Forsberg?
Well, and I guess that's a lot to happen, but I guess at that point maybe you've got a chance. And Tomasino's scoring, and Tolvanen scoring, and Roman Jossi's going to win the Norris Trophy. If all those things happen, then maybe so. Maybe you just let it ride at that point.
Saros Vezina.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways this could go.
Yeah.
This has been fantasy story time.
Thank you. I don't know. It's a tough call. It's surprising to me, without knowing the specific details of what's going on. It's surprising to me that according to Forsberg's agent, the conversations haven't even begun yet. Like, you would think at least preliminary conversations would have started at this point.
Is it possible that it's just like the Preds have decided to order things like with easiest to toughest, and just as soon as Ekholm is taken care of, then they move full attention to that?
It could be. But it's also like, I think you need to start to try to get a gauge on what you're dealing with here and how much ground you've got to make up with Forsberg. You know, we talked about the comments he told me last week of, you know, he's not in any rush to sign, and, you know, he feels like he needs to play his contract out. How much does he really believe that he needs to play his contract out, and how much of that is just posturing for negotiation? Like, if you're the Predators, that's something you probably need to figure out pretty soon. Because if you roll into December, January, and he is no closer to signing than he is right now, that's a problem for your team.
Well, I do get the sense on both sides, and I think it's just reality, that I think he wants to see what this team looks like, and even what the future looks like with some of these young guys who are going to be on the ice with him this year.
And I don't blame him for that.
And I don't blame him at all for that. I would want the exact same thing. Like, is Cody Glass good? Okay, let's see. Is Tomasino going to be a plus player over the next few years that you can actually build around? Okay, let's see.
Certainly a lot of interesting parts of this that are going to go into that decision for sure. When we come back, we'll be joined by Kayla Anderson from News 2. We'll get her thoughts on the Titans and the Jags, maybe her thoughts on the Philip Forsberg situation as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Hour number 3 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Remember FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley alongside Joe Rexrode and Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. And we are very pleased to go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend Kayla Anderson from News 2. Kayla, what's going on? How we doing?
Well, good morning, gentlemen and lady. I hope you guys are having a good morning. I have got my coffee, as you can probably tell.
Oh, yeah.
My bike this morning.
Very nicely done. Kayla is ready.
Nice.
She's raring to go here this morning at 8 o'clock. So, Kayla, let's start with the news of the week, and that is Urban Meyer and everything going on with him down in Jacksonville. Obviously, that's the opponent for the Titans this week. I guess, number one, what's been your reaction to just a wild week for Urban Meyer and the Jaguars? And do you think this has any effect whatsoever on the product on the field coming up on Sunday?
Yeah, so first and foremost, it was, I don't want to say a shocker that Urban Meyer made headlines, because we all know he's kind of been making headlines for a while now.
Oh, yeah.
In very different capacities. But this was a little bit of a shocker just for the fact that, I covered Urban Meyer for 3 seasons at Ohio State, including that championship run. I knew Shelley Meyer, his wife, really well, because she would do a lot of stuff in the community, and she would actually come on our show a lot on the weekend. We had a sports show, and she would make appearances every now and then, and she's got a big personality. And so, he's always called himself a family man, and he's always said, my kids mean everything to me, the grandkids, my wife. And so when I saw this video, I was just kind of like, whoa, this is out of all the things that Urban Meyer has done, this is not what I expected in terms of a predicament to get himself in, but here we are. And this week has got to be completely chaos down there in Jacksonville, in my opinion, because you've got these grown men now that he coaches, not college guys that, follow a lead of their college coach and know that that's kind of what they have to do. Like, these are guys that are making millions of dollars, more than the coach is making. And he goes out there and causes this kind of distraction, just a few days before you get back to work trying to win a game this season. I think it's just an awful situation for the team down there. It's just such a distraction for those players. And no matter how you want to look at it, I think it's really hard to stay focused as a team to prepare for your next opponent when you're already dealing with a winless season up to this point. And now you've got a coach who is pretty much going out there and embarrassing, the whole entire team and himself.
Well, Kayla, as someone with the insight you have on Urban Meyer, I'm curious to know, what was your initial reaction when he got this job? Do you like his obviously, I think we all like them less now, but do you like his chances to be able to figure out the move from college to the NFL? What do you think about what you've other than this, what you've seen so far?
Yeah, so when I first found out that he was going to take the job in Jacksonville, I was a little surprised just for the fact that I honestly thought he was going to at some point take that USC job. I mean, he was over there doing TV in LA with Fox, and he was doing all, the pregame and the halftime stuff. And so I thought maybe he'll just end up taking that USC job, because we all know that he can coach at the college level. That we know for sure. He has proven he's a good college coach. He has rings to prove it. But when he said he was going to take this job in Jacksonville, at first I was like, there's no way. I don't think it's going to happen. But then the part of me that knew that Urban Meyer had an ego, that Urban Meyer had a big ego, I was like, you know what? He is going to take this job, because he wants to prove to everyone that he's not just a good college coach. He wants to coach at the highest level and prove that he can do it, because everybody around him is pretty much saying, nah, that's not where you should go. You saw what happened to Nick Saban, right? Stay in your lane. And so up to this point, I just haven't been impressed. And I say that because he's made all those mistakes leading, into this whole debacle. There was the things with the strength and conditioning coach there. I'm sorry, but I have nothing against Tim Tebow, but bringing Tebow on, I think he lost a lot of respect from the players just because we all know, like, Tebow's time is past, and there's other players in the league that probably shouldn't have an opportunity, but we all know his connection with Tim Tebow, right? So there's just a lot of things that have happened where I just don't see progress at all. And then you have to look at the record, and I know they almost were able to get that win against Cincinnati. There's been a little bit of progress with Trevor Lawrence, but overall, I haven't been that impressed. And now you put this on the team, I just think it sets you back.
Kayla Anderson from News 2 on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, Kayla, from the Titans' point of view, obviously a bad loss last week against the Jets. You're here at 2-2. You've got, like, the entire team on the injury report heading into this game coming up. And the offensive line, it's been a big storyline so far this year. Obviously in the Arizona game and then again last week against the Jets. I guess from 1 to 10, your concern level with this offensive line in pass blocking, and if that doesn't get significantly better, can this Titans team overcome that? What have you made of the way the line has played so far and what that means for them as they go forward here?
Yeah, it's progressively my worry level, and the radar is getting a little bit higher because I understand in that first game against Arizona, and now we're seeing how good of a team Arizona is. I think at this point we understand how talented they are. But you kind of said, okay, Taylor Lewan's getting back. This is his first game he's played in a while. You guys, you didn't get much work during training camp. We've seen that in the past where it takes them a minute to get their chemistry going, like when they added Roger Saffold and everything. But now you're at this point, and there's been so much up, down, left, right, no consistency at all. The communication between them on the line, the injuries, it seems to be an issue that is more so growing than digressing. And it worries me because I just don't know if Taylor Lewan is going to be 100% himself this year because you're coming off of that ACL, and I don't know what that's like, right? And I certainly don't know what that's like being an NFL player and having to, feel comfortable back in that spot. And it might take him a year to get back to where he needs to get to. And then you look at all the other injuries. Roger Saffold is in and out of games. Ben Jones is in and out of games. And just the guys that have come up behind them, whether it be Aaron Brewer with the botched snap or Quisenberry just with some mistakes, I just don't feel comfortable with what the line has put out there. And I'm hoping that it can get better, but that's up to them as individuals. They have to take accountability because if they don't, Ryan Tannehill is not going to be healthy the rest of the season. There's going to be a point where Ryan Tannehill gets knocked out of a game, and I don't think the Titans can afford that, 100%. There's no way that you're going to win games moving forward without Ryan Tannehill. So I feel like there's work to be done. Obviously, I think it can improve, but if they don't stay healthy, I'm really worried, guys, about this offense moving forward because it really starts up front.
Well, let me throw this at you then, Kayla, because we did this earlier in the week. If you were the Titans and you could pick one of these banged up players and know for sure, okay, this player is healthy, you're going to get this player totally healthy the rest of the year. You can pick one guy. Who would it be?
Oh, that's difficult. But I think I'm going to go with A.J. Brown. And the only reason why I say that is because he has just proven time and time again to be that playmaker that Ryan Tannehill can rely on. And he's given the team momentum in parts of the games when they need momentum, when they need that big play. And I know that, it starts up front with the offensive line, and obviously Tannehill can't sit there and get sacked every game. But I think Tannehill feels comfortable to make decisions sometimes because he has held onto the ball a couple times, right, that he might have been more comfortable if his guys were out there, his actual starters. And with A.J. Brown out there, I just feel like he has that comfort level with him, that chemistry, that reliability with him. And so A.J., I feel like having him back is crucial in terms of the offense, and just because we know what we get out of this guy, right? He wants to be out there. he was at practice yesterday. He's had that hamstring. You can just tell this guy wants to play, and he loves this team, and he wants to win. And I appreciate that, and I think that needs to be on the field.
Well, Kayla, I feel smarter because my answer was also A.J. Brown.
Okay, I like it.
Synergy.
There are no wrong
the
answers.
same
There are
page
no
as
wrong
Corey.
answers here.
That's right.
I went Bud Dupree.
That's
but,
right.
You know, it's fine.
Oh, yeah, no, I like that too, Joe. I mean, defensively, yeah. Sometimes I forget about
Thank
the
you,
defense,
Kayla.
right?
You guys are you guys are all into the offense. What about stopping people?
Kayla Anderson from News 2, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Kayla, great stuff. Really appreciate you taking time to join us this morning.
Hey, thanks, my friends. And get Joe that Dunkin' Donut coffee.
I know. You need to really step it up there, Rexrode. We can get this done for you. I don't think there's any question about it.
You know I won't turn down coffee.
That's right. Kayla,
Right.
we appreciate you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Kayla.
Bye, gal.
Kayla Anderson from News 2, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. We'll come back and react to what Kayla had to say there. Take your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Attention men, have you been struggling with erectile dysfunction? Well, Hillside Medical Clinic has a breakthrough treatment for ED that does not require any pills, injections, or surgery. And right now, Andrew joins me from Hillside Medical Clinic to tell us all about it. Andrew, what's going on? How we doing?
Hey, we are doing good. And guys, we have a major medical advancement. If you are frustrated in the bedroom, if you're taking the pill, or you're just living with erectile dysfunction, you do not have to do that any longer. Hillside Medical uses the most studied form of acoustic wave therapy. This technology, gentle pressure waves over about 10 minutes, open up and regrow blood vessels, improves circulation enough. Finally, we can get rid of the ED at its core without the use of pills.
And that, obviously, without the use of pills is great, but maybe the natural follow-up for some listeners is, okay, well, that all sounds great. What kinds of studies have been done on this technology?
If you go to hillsidemedicalclinic.com, you can read 50 third-party studies. Most people have heard of the Cleveland Clinic. It's one of the biggest hospitals in America. It said that this technology creates a clinical and statistical increase in blood flow. That is so cool and exactly what we as men need more of.
And, Andrew, I hear you have a special offer right now if our listeners call in.
Yes, call us this morning now. You'll qualify for the initial screening assessment, even the blood flow ultrasound free, plus a gift that I don't think I've ever seen fail. It produces immediate results in the bedroom. We're talking hundreds of dollars in value. Give us a call now. It's all free.
That's right, guys. You heard it there from Andrew. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction by treating the root cause of the problem. Call Hillside Medical Clinic right now to qualify for that offer. 615-576-5000. Once again, that's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your ED and regain your love life. Call Hillside Medical Clinic right now at 615-576-5000. Do you want to win a pair of tickets to see Daughtry at the Ryman Auditorium on November the 3rd? Well, head on over to YouTube and subscribe to the 1025 The Game YouTube page, and you'll enter for your chance to see Daughtry. Once you subscribe, email us at promotions@cromwellmedia.com. Once again, that's promotions@cromwellmedia.com with your YouTube handle. One winner will be chosen on Monday, October the 11th. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Visit ballstatebank.com to learn more about their free Kasasa checking account. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Thanks to Kayla Anderson from News 2 for joining us in the last segment. Going to be an interesting game for the Titans coming up on Sunday against the Jaguars. And Joe, we brought up the injury list earlier. It is quite expansive for the Titans. 21 people on the injury report yesterday. We'll see how many of those can get healthier as this week moves along here. But looking ahead to this game, I guess if you're the Titans offensively, and let's just say that Taylor Lewan can play, Ben Jones can play, and you feel okay about your offensive line, at least in terms of the starters heading into it. What do you want to see from this group in terms of how they respond in pass protection? And have we seen it at any point this year where you think they play to your potential? And the game I'm thinking about is the Indy game. Has there been a game yet where you have felt really good about this offensive line?
Well, listen, after the Indy game, and I think in particular, so much of it revolves around Lewan, obviously. And that's why you pay a left tackle that much. You need that guy to be great. You need to be able to devote resources elsewhere. I mean, he's going to be on an island. And I thought the Indy game and the second half of the Seattle game represented progress for the offensive line. I mean, really progress for everyone. I mean, that game and a half, I guess it's a little more than a game and a half because you have overtime in Seattle too. That game and 2/3 was
nice.
Good. That was good football. And that includes, I thought the offensive line was fine. I mean, the Colts they don't have great players, I guess, on the edge, but they've got a very good defense. And obviously it starts in the middle with Buckner. But that was fine. I mean, so the Titans have given up 17 sacks, and they've given up 13 of them in the 2 losses. They've given up 4 in the 2 wins. So it's not like it's been consistently. I mean, it hasn't been consistently anything with this team, right? I mean, this team has not been consistently anything.
Yep.
So yeah. I mean, if you want to spin that positively, there are stretches of good football even from the offensive line. It's just hard to remember that with the latest image being what the Jets did to them.
It is, and now you're moving, into a line of scrimmage game against the Jags offensively where, like, if Jacksonville is able to generate a consistent pass rush on Sunday against Ryan Tannehill, then I think you start to become very concerned about this group because, I mean, look, the Jags, we know what their roster's like right now. They've got some players that are good. Every NFL team does. But the Jaguars should not give you very many problems offensively if you're the Titans coming up this Sunday. If we're talking again on Monday morning about Ryan Tannehill taking shot after shot and running for his life and the offensive line giving up 4 sacks in this game against the Jags, I think we reach a point at that point where you've got to be really concerned about this group as they move forward here.
Well, I think that's fair, but I mean, there's concern going in again on the health front too. I mean, if it's turf toe with Taylor Lewan, that is a painful injury that really limits players. And again, he was down just like Ben Jones was down in the first series for a long time, and now he's on the injury report with a neck. Saffold's in concussion protocol. Who the heck knows what that means? But usually, you count the next game out. Now, he was out on the field yesterday, but that doesn't guarantee anything. So now you might be talking about Brewer in at left guard. You got Ben Jones, who's always on the verge of leaving a game. So Dylan Radunz, get ready. And then what if Taylor Lewan is severely limited? I mean, I think it's Ty Sombrilo over. I mean, at least you have some depth, some that is proven to an extent. And then, of course, with Radunz, who the heck knows? But so that alone, like if you told me that like Lawan, Saffold, Jones, like they'll all play the whole game, the way the Titans run the ball against Jacksonville as a
Yeah.
as a franchise tradition with Derrick Henry, I'd feel pretty good if Todd Downing has a good plan. You know, that you're not too predictable. You're not putting Tannehill in bad spots. And look, it does matter on the outside. I mean, Kayla was exactly right. Like, yeah, Tannehill's taking sacks and protection and all that stuff. But when you have A.J. Brown, it changes things. It changes the defense, and it changes your mindset and your comfort, and just just opens things up for you that you can do as a quarterback that you couldn't do last week. So, I mean, a lot of this is still tied to the question of the 21 people on the report and what it's going to look like Sunday.
It is, and maybe we'll see once again today Derrick Henry on the injury report / the rest report for Derrick Henry. That's been a Thursday tradition the last couple of weeks. As we know, Derrick Henry has totally destroyed the Jacksonville Jaguars in his career. And honestly, like the yards per game is lower than I thought. It's at 101.3 in his yards per game against the Jags in his career. Now, keeping in mind early in his career, he wasn't getting a whole lot of carries against the Jags either. So I'd like to further break that down, but I don't have those numbers in front of me. So I'm going to make up my own total. Over under Rexrode, 165 and a half yards rushing for Henry on Sunday. Over under 165 and a half.
Yeah, that's a good one because, like, if you said like over under 140, like I would have expected, I'd probably take the over.
Yep,
that's a big number to count on 165 and a half.
It's big. We've seen him go for bigger.
But I'm going to say over, and part of the reason I'm going to say over, it's kind of like late last year. Is this Titans defense bad enough to let the Jags and Lions stay in games long enough for Derrick Henry to put up ridiculous numbers in those games? And the answer was yes.
Yeah.
And I think the Titans defense is going to give up some points on Sunday. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to make some plays at their expense. And so I think that's going to make it necessary for Derrick Henry to still be a factor late in the game. When it's probably not going to go well for the Jags at that point, tackling him. You know, that's the thing about the offensive line, which is really interesting, is that by the deeper numbers, like their run blocking was fantastic against the Jets.
Yep.
A very good front seven, which was supposed to be very good in that way too. But the Jets did a great job of tackling Derrick Henry in the second level. It's just that the Titans, I mean, he had lanes. And so I'll go over.
The last time we saw Derrick Henry play against the Jags was December 13th last year. 26 carries, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns for King Henry in that game.
Could have been worse for the Jags. They got off easy.
It actually could have been worse in that game for the Jags. We'll come back. We'll get into the Tennessee Volunteers. How do they respond from a big win on Saturday against Missouri, and can they carry that forward against South Carolina coming up this weekend? We'll get into that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube today and every day. Our video streaming brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by Volunteer State Bank, conveniently serving Middle Tennessee with 13 locations. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Joe, the Tennessee Volunteers back in action coming up on Saturday against South Carolina, fresh off a 62-24 win against Missouri this past Saturday. Did you see the jerseys that Tennessee came out with yesterday, which I believe they have now titled the dark mode jerseys? All black jerseys with the white helmets for Tennessee. What did you think of those?
This is just another opportunity for you guys to call me Boomer, right?
No, I'm truly interested in your thoughts.
You know that I hate alternative stupid uniforms, and I hate these too.
You do, Joe? I never knew this about you.
Oh yeah. It's such a load of crap. It's just a way to get people to buy more merch, and
which it does.
Most of them are so stupid. Again, I've told the story. What was it? 2011. As I recall, Taylor Lewan was on the field acting like a complete jackass that day and getting smoked. But Michigan State, Michigan State looked like those little army men that you play with.
Yeah.
Stupid uniforms. They call it, the Nike Pro Combat. Just wear your green and white. And then Michigan changes before they come out. So they put on some weird these stripes. They look like bumblebees. So it's bumblebees against little army men. Just stupid. Wear your maize and blue. It looks good. Tennessee, wear your nice orange and white. It looks great. But whatever. I mean, I'll be the boomer. I'll be the boomer on this.
See, I'm cool with it for one game.
Yeah, whatever. Honestly, I have less of a problem in college football because, I mean, it's one of those things where if you don't do something that somebody else is doing, then you're not as cool and you're trying to attract young people to come play for your program.
Right.
Like in the NFL, it's purely a money grab, and it's same thing. It's just a lot of these, whatever, the color rush that these have on Thursday nights. They look so dumb. So whatever. I said, I think the Tennessee uniforms look like candy corn.
Look, they're going to wear them on Saturday against South Carolina, and look, they're fine. I'm glad that this is just going to be kind of a one-time thing, and then they'll go back to orange and white because I do like the traditional look, but I'm cool with the one-time uniform going to the black, and the players like it, so I'm all cool with it. I will say, I love the helmets that are with them. I think they look great, but I also don't want them to wear those helmets in these games. To me, it makes no sense to have a jersey that's all black and orange, and then you've got the white helmets up top. Just wear black and orange helmets. Just go the whole thing with it and go black and orange helmets. Even though I think the helmet itself looks great, the white helmet with the all-black uniform, I don't know if that's going to look great.
Or just spitballing, wear your freaking normal uniform. But yes, I think you may be onto something there.
Joe, Chase McCabe just texted me. How would you feel about the Titans wearing a red uniform?
I'm for it.
Oh, because they have a little tiny bit of red in the flaming thumbtack.
There's always been a fan-made alternative red uniform. That goes back to the early days. You can see people still, if you go to Titans games here, walking around in a red and blue Eddie George jersey or a Frank Wycheck jersey, or there's even some people that have modernized it and they've got a red Tannehill jersey. I've seen it.
Well, Nate, the QB wears red in practice. Nate on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, how would Joe feel about the Preds bringing back the alternate navy blue? There's a lot of push for it from fans. I would not be for it. I know, be surprised. I would not be for it.
You hater of alternate uniforms in all respects, not even just football, all respects. Okay.
I'm trying to think. Okay, here and there, I kind of do like the throwbacks. The NFL has done that before.
Yeah.
So, for example, the country is, of course, forced every year to watch the freaking Lions.
That is correct.
Play football. And, of course, as a child, I was, excited to watch the Lions break my heart on a Thanksgiving morning. But they did, back in the Barry Sanders era, they would wear, their 1950s unis, and those were kind of cool. So, throwback stuff. But then, the Steelers, their throwback unis, again, you're talking about bumblebees.
It's awful.
for the most part, it's not. It's just dumb.
Every time the Packers wear a throwback uniform and it's like that blue and brown, like, no, get it out of here.
Yeah,
Don't want it.
Right. It's like the town, the townsfolk who owns the team also like had like the school children come up with a uniform during crafts time.
Maybe so. I was like, as a Titans fan, I'm sure aware, sometimes you get flashbacks when you go to those throwback unis. Like, I think the Patriots were wearing throwbacks when they beat the Titans 59-0 in the snow game that day. It's a tough day for the Titans.
So do you hate Oregon, Joe?
Yeah, they got a new uniform every week.
Well, so here's the thing. So, like, and honestly, I mean, they're obviously they're kind of at the forefront. I mean, it's basically Nike headquarters, right?
Yep.
So the thing about Oregon is they actually made a brand out of being different every week, and I think that's kind of cool. Like, there's not some like Oregon uniform where I'm like, no, but some of these college teams do. Like Penn State, some people hate them, some people love them. They're the most simple uniform out there, right?
Yeah, I don't like
You should never not be in those uniforms. Ohio State, you should never not be in those uniforms. I just think that and like Florida State too. Like I've always loved their uniforms.
Yeah.
I just feel like when you are branded as something, I think branding is a big thing in sports in the world. I understand like the financial element of this. And again, young kids with college, it's a little different. But with Oregon, because they didn't have an identifiable, like, that's the Oregon uniform, I actually thought that was cool. But it also made it worse because now everybody's like, oh, well, we should change our uniforms every 3 weeks. And then you flip on the TV sometimes, you have no idea who the hell's playing.
Well, Joe, regardless of the uniform that Tennessee is wearing coming up on Saturday, I think they should absolutely destroy South Carolina in this game. And it's going to be an interesting test. We wondered last week heading into the Missouri game, how do you respond after the Florida game where you fell off the rails in the second half? Now the question is, can this team handle success? I mean, you come out, you've just destroyed Missouri, 62-24. You're favored by double digits in this game against South Carolina. Can this Tennessee team come out and take care of business? Are they mature enough to come out at home and look sharp against this South Carolina team? Looking forward to that coming up on Saturday.
Well, look, Shane Beamer, I think, is a good coach. I like the hire. I think he's going to be a good coach there. I mean, we'll see what he can do on the recruiting trail, to get them back to being more competitive. But Shane Beamer they're going to have good defensive teams.
Yep.
I believe, Shane, just like his dad, and I know his dad had Bud Foster all those years at Virginia Tech, but they're going to have good defense teams. They're going to have good special teams too. And I think it'll be way more resistance for Tennessee Saturday. I mean, they are not going to go out there and just, hey, pick your big lane to run through and pick your running back to have like 50, 60, 70 yards. It's not going to be like that. It will be a tougher game. They're not going to, like, if Tennessee doesn't reach 40, I'm not going to be surprised. But South Carolina can't score. And honestly, I'm optimistic about Tennessee winning this game handily because I like how their defense is playing.
Yep.
You got to keep staying healthy through the season because your twos, you really fall off in some spots. And just like everybody, they've got a few guys banged up. But I really like how they're playing, and I don't think South Carolina is going to do much at all offensively. And that's something going into the year I wasn't sure I would say going into an SEC game.
Coming up next, we have the best and worst things in sports for the week. Hit up our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We'll take your submissions there at 615-737-1025. That's coming up next. But also, Fury and Wilder back in the ring this Saturday to complete their epic trilogy, and FanDuel Sportsbook is giving new customers exclusive 30-1 odds on either fighter to win, and that's right now is the perfect time to give FanDuel a shot because you can win $150 on a $5 bet. Personally, I like Fury in this fight. I think it's going to be a great fight the third go-around, but you take it any way you want to take it. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and sign up with promo code ROB to get in on the action. Once again, that promo code is ROB, and with FanDuel in your corner, you always get exclusive odds boosts, great promotions, and so much more. That's why they're America's #1 sportsbook. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. New users only. A $10 first deposit required. Must wager in designated offer market. Max bonus of $150. Bonus for Tennessee users fulfilled in site credit within 72 hours. Tennessee site credit expires 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
The best and worst of the sports week, now on Robby and Rexrode. On ESPN. 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
And it is that time of the week, time for the best and worst things in sports. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Our video streaming brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. We'll take your submissions for the best and worst thing in sports on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, as we do every week, let's kick things off with the best thing in sports. And Rexrode, we begin with you. What is your best thing in sports for this week?
So for the second straight week, I've it's been really easy to find worsts, and I've struggled to find a best.
Yep.
So I'm thinking that this just means that I'm a negative, pessimistic person, which I guess people have already figured out by now. Yeah, it could be. Okay, so you gotta follow along with me here. You have to follow me on Twitter. Okay, for this but I wanted to switch to this today because my good friend and friend of the show, which by the way we have to get her on again here soon, sometimes in hoop season, Lisa Byington. had a really great thread about going to the Chicago Sky game last night with a friend of hers from college. Of course, she played soccer and hoops at Northwestern, and the 8-year-old daughter. So this thread on Twitter, I won't recap the whole thing, but it's like she just recapped with photos and everything, like a young person becoming a huge fan of a team in real time. And it's pretty awesome. And I would say, to make this a larger point, it's another, I think, example of, women's athletics and the growth and the increased presence, although there's still a long way to go on that front. And frankly, I think Nashville, by the way, would be a very good place for a WNBA team. But
yes.
That thread, if you go at Lisa Byington, BYINGTON, of course, Lisa did the NCAA tournament this past year. She's now the Bucks play-by-play announcer. She's going to be the first woman to do an NBA team play-by-play full-time. And check that out. It's really cool.
My new best thing in sports may be the Robo Joe we just got for a second. It was good stuff.
Yeah, Joe, you were breaking up a little.
It worked out. It was fine.
We heard you, though.
It was all good.
What did you guys miss? I said some incredy.
You didn't miss it. We didn't miss anything. It's just
profound things.
We didn't miss anything. Just a little bit of it was a little slower, and it was maybe Jim Wyatt-esque. It was good stuff.
Okay. All right. Nobody beats the king, Jim Wyatt. But right. All right, cool.
Michelle Knezovic, your best thing in sports for this week.
Okay, piggybacking off Joe with the women's sports. We love giving them more coverage. So last week, I think this was Joe's best about you had a friend who wrote an article on the NWSL and shedding light on essentially this just abuse that's been going on. But the women's players last night, there were 3 NWSL games, and they took a stance at the 6th minute, and they all stood in a circle and held hands to represent the 6 years of the essentially people knowing about this abuse and not saying anything about this specific coach, Paul Riley. So I think that's just a very good example of, the athletes recognizing something and using their platform to help make a positive change. We've seen other coaches this week use their platform and in public to not be a positive change in the community. So, using their platform, they're athletes, but they're also public figures, and young kids look up to them. So I think that was pretty awesome what they did last night.
Very nicely done. I have 2 things for the best things in sports this week. I'll start with my beloved Green Bay Packers. Aaron Jones has gotten a pocket. The Packers equipment staff has sewn a pocket in his jersey over his heart where his father's ashes can go. If you missed the Monday night game between the Packers and the Lions, Aaron Jones had, I believe, 4 touchdowns in that game, and on one of them, he lost his father's ashes in the end zone that was around his neck. So the equipment staff and the grounds crew spent all night at Lambeau Field searching around, looking for it. They finally found his father's ashes in whatever he's carrying those in, and now have sewn a pocket into Aaron Jones's jersey so he can play football while having his father's ashes with him in the pocket. So I thought that was really cool. And also, Taylor Heineke, quarterback of the Washington football team, he's looking awfully good so far with Ron Rivera and company. And he had a pretty nice interview after the game the other day, got emotional talking about making it to this point, and at one point staying with his sister and her husband on their couch, almost giving up on football as he quarterbacked an XFL team. And now he is the starting quarterback of an NFL team and is playing pretty well. So shout out to Taylor Heineke of the Washington football team and Aaron Jones as well. My 2 best things in sports. Joe Rexrode, your worst thing in sports for this week.
See, this is where, so I don't like going first when I'm like scrambling to, to come up with an answer. But I do like going first on this because when I know what I want my answer to be, and it's probably like the obvious thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I got to go Urban Meyer. And you know what? I am going to take it in a specific direction, inspired by the texter from earlier. The worst thing is that Urban Meyer has made his own bed here. Okay. But like his kids and grandkids can now see this about their dad and grandpa. You know what I mean? Obviously, he's been criticized, and that comes with the territory of being a big-time coach, but he's an all-time great coach. He's rich beyond words. I know some people not rich enough for an athletic subscription, but very rich. I know some people will look at someone like that and say, "Yeah, whatever, they're fine." But I mean, again, like his family didn't sign up for this crap, and so I have zero sympathy for Urban Meyer, but quite a bit for them. So that's my worst thing.
Michelle Knezovic, your worst thing in sports.
Okay, kind of obvious the Urban Meyer situation, but going a little bit different way. There's a lot of ways you can take it. Obviously, in your personal life, if you want to make that decision, if you want to mess up your life, go for it. But just he's been consistent with lying this week.
There has been that.
Very much proof of this video and what is happening. And what really irks me, and I think the worst part is, you are standing in front of national media and just continuously lying this week. And people are like catching you in this, like there's video proof. But I just don't really understand how he can stand up there and be like, oh yeah, like I was at dinner, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude. So that's my worst thing. Just consistently lying on, at your press conference, on a radio show, in the locker room, and then switching up your story. So it's really irking me, getting me fired up on this Thursday and all week, really, for that matter.
Big week for Urban Meyer. Big week. I mean,
make it an urban trifecta, Robbie.
Well,
urban trifecta.
Look, he is my worst thing in sports, but y'all have already kind of described that pretty well, so I'll go a different route. Kyrie Irving. And it's really just Kyrie Irving in general. And look, the latest news is, they're still unclear of whether or not he's going to be able to play or is going to show up because of the vaccine concerns. And look, it's that I'm not really interested in getting into a vaccine discussion here on the show, but it's more just Kyrie Irving himself, how Kyrie Irving has always got to be the center of everything, and when he's not, he actively makes himself the center of everything. And Kyrie Irving, I've said it before here on the show, is probably my least favorite athlete of all time. I despise that man, and he continues to make it easier to despise him on a daily basis. So Kyrie Irving, maybe permanently the worst thing in sports, but certainly today, the worst thing in sports for me. Joe Rexrode, your response. Defend your boy.
Is that Joe's boy?
No, it's not.
You're an athlete. Use your platform positively.
I mean, well, he's Mr. Flat Earth, which actually goes along with like the vaccine misinformation that he's really championing here. And by the way, I may have gone Robo Joe, but for me on my end there, you went super speedy. So I don't know if you're getting any of that from me, but you went super fast as you went. Kyrie Irving's the worst thing I hate. That was pretty good. It was like an auctioneer talking about Kyrie Irving.
Thank you.
No, he's a good choice. He's a good choice.
Dennis on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I thought it was cool seeing Juan Soto at the Dodgers game to support his former teammates last night. So Juan Soto of the Washington Nationals in the crowd last night with some pretty good seats, I might add, watching Max Scherzer pitch and watching Trey Turner. Had Trey Turner's jersey on for the Dodgers last night. And by the way, I watched a lot of that game. Great baseball game last night between the Dodgers and the St. Louis Cardinals. Shout out to Matt Beatty getting a start at first base for the Dodgers in a wild card playoff game. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I couldn't make it through the whole thing, but that's one of those things. The wild card stuff's dumb. I seem to feel like I'm complaining about everything today, but it's good that the Dodgers won. Because there's such a gap between those teams on a one night thing. I just really don't like it all. But good for the Dodgers for coming back, because early on I thought it was getting a little dicey and that pressure was already starting to ratchet up on them.
Heidi from Dixon texting in, the best thing, the Titans can win this division blindfolded, so they should rest the hurt guys. The worst thing is Jared making up ridiculous theories yesterday about Joe's approach to sports topics. He has no clue. This coming from Heidi on the text line.
I don't know what the reference. What did he say? I don't know.
I don't know. But Heidi is on your side, and therefore debunking the theory that maybe Heidi is Jared.
So Jared wants to give Joe a pedicure.
Heidi is Lou.
Well, could be. Heidi, we appreciate your participation.
Also, Yankees lost.
Line. The Yankees did lose. That certainly belongs in the conversation of the best thing in sports. We'll continue to take your submissions on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Sheil Kapadia from The Athletic. We'll get into all things NFL with him. That's next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Brought to you by Volunteer State Bank. Real people, real solutions right here. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Talking all things NFL. And to help us do that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend Sheil Kapadia from The Athletic. Sheil, what's going on? How we doing?
Doing well, guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, we appreciate you taking time to join us. And, Sheil, let's start where most of the conversation is this week in the NFL, and that is with Urban Meyer and the situation going on with he and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I guess, number one, what's been your reaction to this Urban Meyer story, and what do you think this means in terms of his future in the NFL and his future with the Jags?
Well, it's been a disaster from start to finish. I mean, let's be honest. In some ways, it's I didn't think this was going to go well, but in some ways, for it to be this bad and this downward spiral through 4 weeks of the season, I mean, the efficiency, the speed is all. In some ways, it's a little bit impressive. I don't know that I've seen this with a coach before. I mean, think about this. We're 4 weeks into his tenure, and the team has already had to release two statements. One after week one, saying that Urban Meyer is committed to the organization and not leaving for USC, where he was rumored to be a candidate. And then after week 4, where anytime your name is in like a headline across news sites saying, coach apologizes for viral video at bar, I mean, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing 4 weeks into your tenure. And then the owner has to release a statement saying that the coach has to regain his trust. So the Jaguars were in a position this offseason where I thought they just needed to not overthink it, just get a competent, safe head coach, a competent, safe GM. You've got a great quarterback prospect coming in. You've got draft capital. Don't screw it up. But they did screw it up. And this has been a franchise that has been really a disaster for like the last decade plus here, where they had one good season. Every other season, they can't even win 6 games. So I don't think it's going to end well. If you told me Urban Meyer's not going to be the head coach by Halloween, that would not shock me, but we'll kind of see how it goes here in the weeks ahead.
I think Rexrode is having some mute issues. We'll get back to him here in just a second. So, Sheil, with that in mind, obviously the Titans 2-2 to begin this season so far, and you've got a lot of injuries. They've got 21 guys on their injury report heading into this week against the Jags. What have you made of the Titans so far? And as you looked at them in the preseason, did you consider them to be among the big threats in the AFC to the Kansas Cities and the Buffaloes of the world?
Yeah, I thought they had the upside to be sort of a surprise team. I certainly thought they were the favorites to win that division. I just think it's been an uneven performance so far. You mentioned it with the injuries. You go into that game last week, you don't have the wide receivers. Their offensive line has been inconsistent when you look at how often Ryan Tannehill was under pressure there. And so you combine those things with the change at offensive coordinator. And I guess it's not, shocking that they would get off to a little bit of an uneven start here. I think their formula was always going to be build a top 5 offense and then try to get by on defense. If you can get kind of a mediocre defense, that would probably be enough to get you in the mix. So I'm not giving up on them so far. You obviously haven't seen it on either side of the ball with the consistency that you would like, but they do have this sort of luxury of being in that division where, I don't know how many wins it's going to take to win that thing, but the Jags and Texans certainly look like 2 of the worst teams in the NFL, and then the Colts, I'm not buying them so far either. So it might not be as pretty as it's been in years past, like last year, where they're just feels like they're scoring 30, 35 points a game and things are coming easy to them. It might be a little bit tougher than that, but I think once they get healthy, I would still think they're going to win that division.
Okay, I've moved to sit inches away from my router, so let's see if that works.
I thought I just left you speechless with how good my Urban Meyer
probably was.
I thought, yeah.
It was very, very good, Sheil. So speaking of Sheil takes, I see a spicy one in your piece that you just tweeted out today. I love these recaps that you go around the league, including teams that shouldn't panic. Steelers should, Panthers shouldn't. But I see the spicy take that the Cowboys are Super Bowl contenders. I must say, I didn't think anyone would say that seriously this season at all. But I'm kind of with you. But still, I'm sure some people are going to be upset about that because they hate the Cowboys so much. So explain on the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's most years the Cowboys get overhyped, and you're saying, why is everyone talking about the Cowboys? Why am I turning on my TV and the Cowboys? They're talking about the Cowboys. They're irrelevant. You know, what's going on here? But this year it's different because if you watch that Cowboys team, I mean, it is a blend of a quarterback who's playing at such a high level in Dak Prescott. I mean, I don't know that there's been a more accurate quarterback just from a passing perspective in the NFL this season, and he's got such command at the line of scrimmage. I mean, he's outsmarting every defensive coordinator he faces on a weekly basis. And then the play caller there, Kellen Moore, has been outstanding as well, where they're setting stuff up in the first quarter. They come back to it later in the game, and they're really catching defenses off guard. And the supporting cast is very strong with their wide receivers, their running backs, and their offensive line has been very good. So, you know, not unlike the Titans, their formula this year was pretty similar. It was, hey, let's build a top 5 offense and a mediocre defense, and we can that will probably be enough to get us in there as a Super Bowl contender, because we've seen that formula work for teams in the past, and they've really done that. Now, it's only been 4 weeks, but that defense has been much better than I anticipated. I thought it was going to be one of the worst defenses in the NFL. It's been much more in sort of that mediocre range, and the offense has been consistent and lights out. So, yeah, I think right now they actually are a Super Bowl contender in the NFC.
Sheil Kapadia from The Athletic on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And Sheil, obviously, we know what Mahomes and company can do offensively for the Chiefs. It has been a struggle on the defensive side of the ball for Kansas City so far. How concerned are you about this Kansas City defense that maybe that could be the downfall for the Chiefs this year?
Yeah, you know, it's hard to sort of put too much stock into it because you sort of feel like they're going to be there in the end, and if they can just figure some things out, you know, even if it's December, that's probably going to be fine for them. They're still going to be playing in the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl because the quarterback and the offense are that good. But this defense is different than their defenses in the past. I mean, by every statistical metric, they have been the worst defense in the entire NFL. I mean, if you watched that game last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Eagles drove into Chiefs territory on every single possession. They did not punt that entire game. And that, trust me, that Eagles offense is not a juggernaut of an offense. They had really struggled the previous 2 weeks. So I think the concerns are valid. I would give them some time, see if they get some guys healthy. You know, Frank Clark has not been on the field for them. Tyrann Mathieu missed the first game for them. So I think they really need to find themselves and figure some things out. Now, if they have the worst defense in the NFL in December, then yeah, that's going to be a concern because there are some, you know, good teams in the AFC that could beat them in a shootout. But if they can just get a little bit better, they don't have to be a juggernaut defensively. They just need to be sort of opportunistic and competent. Then I think they'll, you know, there won't be too many concerns. They'll still be one of the best teams in the league.
Well, let's stick with AFC defenses, Sheil. You have a stat that the Browns pressured Kirk Cousins on 46.3% of his dropbacks, which is fourth best. I was astounded to see the score at Minnesota that the Vikings scored 7 points against that defense. How good is it? And as everybody cringes in Nashville, how much of a part of that is Jadeveon Clowney?
Yeah, he played really well last week, and really on the season, he's been very disruptive. You know, I know people are tired of others saying, hey, it doesn't always show up in the box score with Jadeveon Clowney. Sometimes that's been true. Sometimes it hasn't been true. It has been true this year. That front four for the Browns, in my opinion, has been the best in the NFL over the first 4 weeks of the season. I mean, Myles Garrett looks unblockable, like the defensive player of the year right now. What he's doing to opposing left tackles has been really fun to watch. Clowney has been disruptive. They signed Malik Jackson, you know, this sort of under-the-radar free agent at defensive tackle. He's been very good. Malik McDowell, who the Seattle Seahawks drafted in the second round, he had an ATV accident. He didn't even play for them. It looked like he was going to be out of the league. Well, all of a sudden, the Browns take a flyer on him, and he's making an impact. So that Browns organization, you know, they knew this offseason that they really needed to add talent on the defensive side of the ball, and that's really what they did. And so far, again, it's only been 4 weeks, but so far it's looked like their moves have worked. And I'm with you. I thought that Vikings offense had really been moving the ball through the first 3 weeks of the season, and they just kind of completely shut them down and then took over that game late.
Sheil, last thing for you here. Here we sit 4 weeks in. The Arizona Cardinals are undefeated. Are you a buyer? Are you a believer in this Arizona Cardinals team?
Yeah, they were one of the toughest teams to project coming into the season because if you look at it last year, the first half of last year, their offense was really good, and you thought, wow, it looks a lot like we expected with Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. But then in the second half of the season, they really had a bottom 10 offense. Now, Kyler Murray injured his shoulder last year around week 8, but he was still playing. So you wonder, well, is it his shoulder or is it something where they're just kind of regressing to the mean here? And, now we can look at it this year and say, well, it was probably his shoulder because he has been lights out. He's my MVP so far. I mean, he's doing stuff in the pocket, making unbelievable throws, and then when the plays break down and he's got to escape and make those second reaction plays, he's been doing those better than any quarterback in the NFL as well. So, yeah, to me, it's just a matter of if Kyler Murray's healthy, right now I'm saying I'm a buyer in that team. Now, he has to do maybe more than any other quarterback in the NFL right now, maybe outside of Patrick Mahomes. He really kind of puts that entire operation on his back. So if he does go, not only if he goes down, but if he's not 100%, then they are a team that you could see kind of collapse right away. But as long as he's feeling good and is relatively healthy, I think that offense is really tough to stop.
Sheil Kapadia from The Athletic has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Sheil, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate you taking time to join us.
All right, thanks for having me, guys. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Sheil.
Sheil Kapadia does great work for The Athletic, covering all things NFL. We'll come back. We'll react a little bit to what Sheil had to say there. Got some of your thoughts to get to as well on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025 The Game. Don't miss Nashville's best NFL pregame show live from Corner Pub in Bellevue this Sunday. The NFL pregame show features Jared Stillman, Mark Howard, and former Titans wide receiver Chris Sanders. Join them from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. live at Corner Pub in Bellevue at 8058 Tennessee Highway 100 prior to the Titans taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The NFL pregame show is brought to you by TriStar Moving, Parma Tractor and Equipment, FreedomTireGuys.com, FanDuel, E2 Roofing, Hillside Medical, Social Furniture, and Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank, real people, real solutions right here. Remember FDIC, equal housing lender. Thanks to Sheil Kapadia from The Athletic for joining us in the last segment. And Joe Rexrode, Sheil's buying the Dallas Cowboys as a legitimate Super Bowl threat. I got to say, they've looked pretty good so far. I think in terms of the very, very early conversation of NFL MVP, I think the two leaders in the clubhouse have to be Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott. Both have been extremely impressive so far this season.
Agree. Let's also remember a year ago that Russell Wilson was the lock to be MVP, even probably a couple weeks after this. And
this will change.
Yeah, this will change. But no doubt. I mean, I think both of them. Who would be – I think that's the clear top two if you had to do it right now. I'm trying to think who third would be. Well, honestly, I mean, I think Derrick Henry should be in the discussion. But, he plays for a 2-2 team, so that's not going to help. But if you want to talk about value, for sure. But, it's not impossible. It's not impossible. It has been a while.
He is on pace for the all-time rushing record at the moment. So if he gets
that
done,
might give him a chance.
I would hope that would at least put him in the conversation if you get the all-time NFL rushing record.
If he gets that done for a good team. If he gets that done in the midst of a very good season. That's got to be part of it. By the way, so what is up? So someone just real quick before we go back into sports, what's up with Wi-Fi? So I'm alone at my home, okay? Yep. How does Wi-Fi, there's no one else drawing off the Wi-Fi. I even turned my phone off the Wi-Fi. How does that start glitching out at me all of a sudden at 9 a.m.?
I don't know.
What's up with that?
Maybe you've just been really pulling in some extra work today. You brought it strong, and the Wi-Fi couldn't handle it anymore. I don't know.
I mean, I guess I could try to go back and sit at the desk, but right now the signal is strong, and it was giving me that weak little, fading out thing.
Yeah, you sound much better right now. No Robo Joe going on.
Yeah, before I guess I'll stay. Hello.
Yeah, there were some good ones.
How much of that was going on?
Not too bad.
It wasn't awful, but a significant amount the last two segments before you changed.
But now I'm holding this laptop, and there's an uncomfortably awkward closeness of my face to the screen. So, for
which
the
I
viewers,
appreciate.
Maybe that's...
We can tell you're holding it. You're a little shaky.
That's right.
A little too much coffee, Joe.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, a little Blair Witch action for the viewers of Robby and Rexrode.
That's right. So, Joe, I'm going to throw out my top 5 teams in the NFL right now. Here we sit heading into Week 5. Thursday Night Football underway tonight between the Rams and the Seahawks. As we sit today, my top 5 teams in the NFL. At number 1, I have the Buffalo Bills at number 1. Their offense has been outstanding. They are destroying people as of late, and they've got a date with the Titans coming up in a couple of weeks on Monday Night Football. I've got the Bills at number 1. They did lose to the Steelers in Week 1, but they figured things out in a hurry since then. So I've got Buffalo at number 1. Your reaction to the Bills? Michelle has already given me thumbs down.
They look very good. It's just, it's also they just played the Texans, and I think the Texans are going to make some teams look really good. It's also, I mean, they've had an interesting ride here for a month. When you losing to the Steelers, how the heck does that happen? But yeah, the last 3 games, you're talking 35, 43, 40, Dolphins, Washington, Texans. I mean, it is impressive to put that kind of those numbers on the Dolphins and Washington. I mean, I think both those teams have legitimate defenses. So I don't think it's I wouldn't agree, but I don't think that it's wacky.
Well, who's your number 1 team?
See, I knew you were going to ask that, and so who did I? So I had to do this. I had to do this week. I have to do it every week for the Athletic. We have to do our power rankings.
Yep.
And I legitimately, Well, I tell you who I put number one. And again, now I've been actually, it's funny because I've kind of been off them, even though I've seen them in person and they look great. I was still a little skeptical, but after seeing what they did to the Rams on the road, I went Cardinals number one, man.
Yeah.
They're playing good D too. It's totally overshadowed by Kyler Murray and that offense. But we did see them absolutely punk the Titans with their defense in week 1, too. So, yeah, I mean, like, I think it's probably going to change. But right now, at this moment, the way they've played consistently, I think they've been the consistently best team in the NFL. I mean, they certainly got lucky to beat the Vikings. So that would have been, I guess, their stinker. And they kind of the Jaguars hung around with them too long, but that was also like a kick six was part of that. For the most part, they've been consistently dominant.
I've got Arizona at number 2. I've got Tampa Bay at number 3. The Cleveland Browns at number 4, and that dominant defense that we talked about with Shield in the last segment. They've ran the ball pretty well this year with Chubb and with Kareem Hunt. Still not really seeing all that much from Baker Mayfield so far this year. And, they do have the one loss to Kansas City in week 1, but I've got Cleveland at number 4. I really like their defense. I think they're going to be a very tough out in the AFC this year. Clowney, baby.
Well, and it is the classic. I mean, the last week was, he had 1 tackle, but apparently doing exactly what they need him to do. Does he benefit from having like Myles Garrett on his team? Sure.
Probably so.
Who wouldn't? But I think, so far you can see why they went and got him, and you can see how he actually can help a team if he's healthy, if he's playing, his best football. He's still a weapon in this league defensively. I know some people in this market who are like, he's terrible and all that stuff. And, that he never had any sort of positive impact last year. But again, even last year when he went out, they were even worse. And you're talking about worse from very bad. So I wondered if he might have a little bit of a bounce back year. I mean, he had the knee last year, and he certainly may well get hurt again. But I'm with you. I think Cleveland is a top 5 team overall, and we haven't seen that passing game really take off, and I think the ingredients are there for it to do so.
And then at number 5, I have the LA Rams edging out my beloved Green Bay Packers. So I don't have the Packers in the top 5. I've got the Rams at number 5. I know they just lost this weekend against Arizona. That team still, to me, has been awfully impressive, and Matt Stafford pushing the ball down the field, I think gives them an element that they've not had. Still don't really like their running game, and at some point you're going to have to run the football if you're the Rams in order to win in the playoffs. So we'll see if they can get that figured out at some point this year. But I've got the Rams at number 5, especially with the defense they bring to the table as well.
I think you've got the right 5. I mean, I think my next team would be the Chargers. So
I can see that.
And again, it's like Chargers. I think the Cowboys are also, and the Packers are all making bids, but no, I mean, I think you've got the right 5 there. I'm not ready at all to be concerned about the Chiefs or the Bucks. And the Bucks haven't, they got beat by the Rams pretty soundly, and then they didn't look great, but it's such a strange, hard game to judge anyone on that game.
They're going to be fine
because of they're going to be just fine. But it's interesting. I mean, like, we actually have a shot here at both LA teams playing each other in their home stadium. Like, imagine if the Giants and Jets played that year when they made the terrible decision to have a Super Bowl in New Jersey.
It would be insufferable.
This could be too.
Could be.
Plus, you'd just be in New Jersey, which would suck.
Well, there's that too.
Yes, this will be in LA. It won't suck from that perspective.
That's right. Play Silly Underdog Picks today. Pick 3 football underdog teams you think will win this week for a chance to win. Go to thegamenashville.com for more details and to play. Silly Underdog Picks is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on the NFL. Get back into the Titans. Is this a must-win game for the Titans coming up this week against the Jags? We'll get into that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube today and every day. Our video streaming brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by Volunteer State Bank, now with 2 locations in Murfreesboro. Visit their brand new Murfreesboro location at 2019 Memorial Boulevard. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Thursday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Ben texting in says 2 a.m. and 9 a.m. are the 2 peak times for internet maintenance companies. They say the least amount of people use their at-home Wi-Fi during that time. That's a possible explanation, anyway, of Rexrode's Wi-Fi problems that he had earlier in the show. There you go, Joe. Maybe Ben's figured it out for you.
Okay, wait. I don't understand. Okay, explain that, though. How does that explain?
Well, it's saying, like, if you're at home, maybe the internet company at 2 a.m. and at 9 a.m., that's their scheduled maintenance time, because apparently they've determined, according to Ben, that those are the two least used times of at-home Wi-Fi usage. There you go.
So because other people are having maintenance done?
I don't know.
Well, a lot of people work from home now, so maybe
I'm just telling you the theory that Ben has on the text line.
There's an overload.
I appreciate the idea, Ben. Meanwhile, I'm just casually sitting here, on the couch. I've got I've put it down. You can see the TV behind me.
Yeah.
Kind of chilling here in the.
It's a good look.
Playroom.
Dennis texting in. Today is the 105th anniversary of my alma mater, Cumberland University, getting beat by Georgia Tech, 222 to nothing. Yes. 105 years ago today, Georgia Tech with a 222 to nothing victory against Columbia. Cumberland.
That's outstanding. I think someone at the Athletic actually wrote something about that, like in the last couple of years, like a total rediscovering the 222 to nothing win, but I didn't read it. I think I need to today.
Apparently they put it on SportsCenter this morning, and they Georgia Tech had like 948 rushing yards in that game, and Cumberland turned the ball over like 15 times. It's good stuff.
Oh, my gosh. You don't need to help them with the turnovers, Cumberland.
That's right.
My goodness, that single win was rocking that day.
You talk about records in sports that are probably safe for all time. That one's got to be up there. Like the Gretzky 50 goals in 39 games and the 215 points and all this other stuff. Like there are a lot of records, like Joe DiMaggio's hitting streak. A lot of things are probably safe in sports. The 222 to 0, I think, is up there in terms of sports records that are safe.
Well, I mean, all the ones you said before that, the Gretzky stuff's crazy. I mean, I don't think we'll see DiMaggio 56 get beat. Highly unlikely. Of course, we saw Pete Rose get to 44. We've seen some people get into the 40s, stuff like that. But, like, that's got to be the most untouchable one, right?
Yeah.
222 to nothing. Like, I mean,
Although I will say, Georgia might have been able to take a run at that a couple of weeks ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, if Georgia was like, if they decided to like keep in their starting quarterback and also like try to preserve clock, with their possessions, then maybe. And triple digits certainly was possible.
Yeah, I think so. So, Joe, this obviously a big game coming up for the Titans on Sunday. They sit at 2-2 after a horrible loss to the New York Jets. You've got all the Urban Meyer stuff floating around out there, all the distractions that Jacksonville's having to deal with. I mean, you should have seen Trevor Lawrence on that podium yesterday having to answer some of these questions about Urban Meyer. It's just got to be such an awkward position for him to be in. To me, there's no excuse for the Titans to lose this game to the Jags, even though they do have about half their roster on the injury report at the moment. I ask you, Joe Rexrode, is this a must-win game for the Titans against the Jacksonville Jaguars, even though we're only in Week 5 this season? Is this a must-win for the Titans?
Yeah. And if you prefer my preferred term at this point, when like early in the season when you play a bad team, I like can't lose better than must win. But it really means the same thing, right?
It does.
You cannot lose this game. You must win this game. It means the same thing. Yeah, you can't lose to the Jets and then turn around and lose to the Jags and then turn around and here's some Bills for you. Here's some Chiefs. Here's some Colts. Here's some Rams. It could get ugly. And just think about how, I mean, I think these guys, even like yesterday, talking like Kevin Byard and Taylor Lewan and some of the guys who talked yesterday, like they've been through, I guess maybe to their credit, they've many times bounced back from losses like this or disappointments, been able to come back the next week. To the discredit, like you want to stop having those situations, but it's the NFL. You can explain away one real stinker of a loss or a Sunday. Everybody's going to have a couple bad Sundays in the course of a season, but you cannot have 2 in a row, and that's what it would take. It would take 2 just miserable performances in a row to lose this also. And I also think that the health situation, as bad as it looks, 21-4 on the injury report, like by far the NFL leader on Wednesday, as we discovered earlier in the show, in guys on the injury report. It's an astounding number on October 6th to have 21 guys. But even with that, it looks pretty good for A.J. Brown to come back. It looks better for Bud Dupree to come back.
Caleb Farley, full participant.
Yeah, and then I don't know how much that matters now. I think that definitely is a good thing potentially into the season. But for those, if you got those 2 guys, A.J. Brown and Bud Dupree back, again, that should mean a lot. It should make a difference. I mean, I thought Bud Dupree ran well when he was playing the first 2 weeks and made some plays. Obviously didn't get sacks, but I mean, he sacks a lot of quarterbacks not named Kyler Murray in week 1. So that would be a big deal. A.J. Brown, just a huge difference for the offense. So even though it looks bad in the injury report, cumulatively, there's some little nuggets of good news in there that could make this a better team Sunday.
Yep, and then we'll see about the offensive line as well with Ben Jones and Roger Saffold. Ben Jones dealing with a neck injury, and Roger Saffold going through concussion protocol. Taylor Lewan with the toe injury, and then maybe an underrated one, Aaron Brewer dealing with a knee on the injury report as well. And what you don't want to have happen is Aaron Brewer can't play, and then Ben Jones goes down in the game, which, let's face it, that's not outside the realm of possibility that Ben Jones could go down in this game. Then what do you do at center? I would assume it's Corey Levin at that point, but as we found out last week, Ben Jones being available to snap the ball, pretty important for this Titans team.
Yeah, look for with Corey Levin. It may require a call up, and it actually would be pretty advantageous for the Titans that they grabbed him when they did. I still would think he'd be an upgrade over Daniel Munyer.
Yeah, and
then of course Dylan Radins in that scenario may have to play. I mean, look, Tyson Brylow may have to play. I don't know what Lewan. I asked him what his injury was, and he just said he got rolled up on, but he had the toe going into last week. Then he was down. He was in pain. He had a big wrap on it. If that's turf toe, it's just a bad deal to have turf toe on either foot. But like the same, leg that you have a surgically repaired ACL. If it's turf toe too, gosh, I mean that's very limiting for a player at any position in sports. So that's probably the area of biggest concern overall. Ben Jones always seems to have something. Was down for quite a while. It's a neck. That's not good.
Nope.
Aaron Brewer didn't participate at all yesterday. That's not good. Knee. So today, today's important. Injury report, what it says, who comes back, if anyone. And some of these guys, you kind of will get an idea, that they're probably trending toward playing. But anybody who goes 2 straight DNPs on Wednesday and Thursday probably isn't.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. TD from Nashville texting in. I don't care how long the injury list is for the Titans. There are just some games where you wake up, show up, and beat their you-know-whats. Last week was one of those games too, and so is this week. I hear you. Last week did not go that well for the Titans. Look, I think the Titans are going to win this game, and we'll get to, obviously, our picks tomorrow, and Pigskin pick them. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that you're going to have to score a lot of points. Like, I can see a path where Trevor Lawrence and this offense for Jacksonville have a pretty good game against this Titans defense, and you're going to need Derrick Henry to be special like he typically is against the Jaguars, and it would be great to have A.J. Brown healthy as well. And to your point, underrated, Would also be pretty great to have Marcus Johnson out there and available as well.
Absolutely. Marcus Johnson. I mean, if you have A.J. Brown, Marcus Johnson, and let's say like Darrington Evans is ready. I mean, maybe he's going to be like Marcus Johnson. It'd be another week down the road before he actually comes back. But that changes things. And all due respect to Jeremy McNichols, because he has been good, but I swear to you, Darrington Evans is talented. He can help this football team.
Take your word for it.
Yeah, but look, the Jets were willing for this to happen. They came out and they were like, blow us out. That's what it should have been 17 or 21-0, and it would have gone that way. And the Titans screwed it up. So I think the Jaguars, probably a pretty fragile football team, but you can't let them off the hook.
Shout out to Dennis Green. Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ben texting in. Can't lose means you're allowed to tie. A must win means a win only.
Well, and they almost said they were playing for a tie last week.
At one point, Titans fans were like begging for a tie. Like, please make the field goal. We want a tie. Yeah, that'd be a pretty disappointing result, too, if you tie against the Jags.
The Titans could potentially be 2-1-2 after this week had Randy Bullock just made that field goal.
That's right. It was on the table.
Lost opportunity.
That's right.
That's a fair point, though, Ben.
That is true. We'll continue to take your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. That's coming up next. NFL Week 5 is here, and FanDuel Sportsbook wants you to get the most out of every play. That's why they're giving everyone a $10 risk-free bet every single week. Thursday night, a great opportunity to give it a try. All you got to do is bet a same-game parlay bet with 3 legs or more, and if your bet doesn't win, FanDuel will pay you back up to $10. The Rams and the Seahawks tonight. Give me the over on Matthew Stafford's passing yards. Give me the over on DK Metcalf's receiving yards as well. And I like the Rams on the money line, but you take it any way you want to take it. Offers like these are why I love betting with FanDuel Sportsbook. It's America's #1 sportsbook. It's easy to use, safe, and secure, and you get your money quickly in as little as 24 hours. So if you're new to FanDuel Sportsbook, sign up today with promo code ROB to also receive a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Once again, that promo code is ROB, so they know that I sent you. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. Refund issued is non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. A max refund of $10. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Same game parlay available for multiple sports in all states on mobile and web. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Welcome back in. Final segment of the day here on Robby and Rexrode, brought to you by Volunteer State Bank, conveniently serving Middle Tennessee with 13 locations. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Little Bleak 182 to close out the program here today. Joe Rexrode, big fan, as always.
Don't appreciate it.
We can't let the small things bother
Don't
us,
like
Joe.
it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Weird
Hey, by the
music
way-
video, though.
That's shocking.
Yeah, I don't want to. I
I'll
hope
tweet it
I
to you
never
later.
saw it. No, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, real quick on the music front, by the way, I got two things in my email inbox just now. One, the Titans supplemental notes, which are always interesting, and
Sure.
I'll read you a couple of those. But also, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nissan Stadium, August 2022, Strokes opening.
So
I
you'll be
promise
there.
you one person who will be there. Now that's good music.
There
Thank
you go. Very nice.
Why can't we jam some Red Hots coming in?
Tomorrow, Joe, tomorrow.
There you go.
All right.
Let's go to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Shane from Ashland City texting in. Is it bad that I prefer 2-2 over 2-1-1? Yes, I would
Yes.
actually prefer 2-1-1. And I
Yes,
look,
you're bad at math if that's your preference.
I hate ties, so I understand what Shane's saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, there comes a point the other day where if you're a Titans fan, you're really pulling for Randy Bullock to make that kick, get you a tie.
I mean, it could be 10-6-1 versus 10-7, and the tiebreakers would have gone to the Colts, and that's why you won the division. So
Yeah.
yes, you want ties.
Dave and Big Rock texting in.
Well, you don't want ties.
Well, you don't want them. Dave and Big Rock texting in. How incredible are some of these posters Titans fans will be carrying to Jacksonville going to be on Sunday? I do not envy the cameramen who are going to have to dodge large sections of the crowd to keep said posters off of television. The memes are already legendary.
Well, like you said, that was you, Robby? Like game day for this would be incredible.
Oh yeah.
It would be the most. I mean, game day would probably have to like blur out half the crowd.
Well, there's probably a
Because
good
who knows
chance.
what kind of horrific things people would come up with.
There's probably a good chance they still like college game day on Saturday. There will be some Urban Meyer signs. I guarantee it.
That's a good point. Where is college?
I have no
Penn
clue.
State,
But
Iowa?
Probably, but I have no clue. But there will be some Urban Meyer signs.
Well, especially because if it is Penn State, Iowa, there's two fan bases who hate Urban Meyer anyway. So there you go.
Did you see the text we got earlier on the text line where I think it was Chris, and it may not have been. I need to go back and look and see who it was. Where apparently the Jags broke down their team huddle yesterday with grind. Is that a real thing? That can't be real, right? 1, 2, 3, grind.
Please let it be true. Please let it be true.
Is that just a thing they say? Is that a troll job? I'm really hoping that's true.
I mean, there's so many things you could do, like with like the Jaguars foam finger, you know, like I mean, there's just a lot of. Oh my gosh! I really hope that's true. We might need to get Mike Duraco on.
Yeah, just get him back on.
Confirm that.
Can you tell us what they did at practice to break down the team huddle? Jordan.
1, 2, 3, grope.
Jordan texting in. The Jags are going to sell out to stop Henry and blitz the fire out of this patchwork line. Red zone efficiency will be the key. I certainly think the game plan is going to be to stop Derrick Henry. The Jaguars, up until this point, largely have not been able to do that. Although I will say, the first game last year at Nissan Stadium, I think he had like 25 carries for 84 yards. That's a pretty good job by the Jags. And then they gave up 220.
Yes, that's when they thought they were going to be competitive in 2020.
Yes.
To the point on Derrick Henry, so the Titans sent out supplemental notes, which are always very interesting. On Thursdays, I believe Dwight Spradlin gets credit. So here's a couple things. One is Derrick Henry, no big surprise, leads the franchise in rushing yards and in yards from scrimmage in the first 4 games of a season. He's better than Earl Campbell, Eddie George, anybody ever did. But this week, he can become the first player in NFL history with at least 150 rushing yards in 4 straight road games. He can break Earl Campbell's franchise record with his 8th career 150-yard road game rushing performance. And here's a really interesting one. He enjoyed Curtis Martin, 1995, speaking of Jets legends.
Yeah.
As the NFL's only players to get 4 straight road games with at least 175 scrimmage yards. So if he can get to 175 between rushing and receiving combined, it's Derrick Henry and Curtis Martin standing alone with that one. Also, he's looking for his 7th straight 100-yard game against the AFC South. So, in fact, that probably then would go back to the game you just referenced, right?
Yeah.
So the Jags were the last team to hold him under? Yeah, I would not have guessed that. See? Good stat.
We have video. Kyle has tagged us in a tweet on Twitter. Video of the Jaguars breaking down the team huddle, saying grind.
Come on.
It's on video. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
I mean, that's fantastic. I hope, I really hope that like someone, I mean, obviously that's an obvious, that's we're grinding and there's different definitions of the word, but I hope someone like whoever in the leadership like thought to do that just because they were also like trolling Urban. I want to believe that.
Me too. Kyle texting in says the Jags will win this week for Urban and all the injuries the Titans have. So this is going to be a rallying point among the players.
Yeah, if they win, I don't think you're going to hear anybody after the game say, "Yeah, this was for Urban.
We won one for the coach, buddy."
Yeah,
probably not.
We're with you, buddy. We know it was hard for you to be dragged out to that dance floor, and we just really wanted to win one for you.
Got a texter going back to the 222-0 win for Georgia Tech against Cumberland on this day 105 years ago. Got a texter that says it was 126-0 at the half, 180-0 at the end of the third. Georgia Tech called off the Dogs and only put up 42 in the fourth. So only 42-point fourth quarter.
Like, man, the walk-ons must have had some stats that day, right? Like,
well,
I assume they emptied the bench.
I would assume so. Cumberland passing the ball, and I've got the graphic from ESPN in front of me. Cumberland passing the ball that day, 2 for 18, 14 yards, 6 interceptions, which means they also had an additional 9 fumbles.
To be fair, like in 1916, passing efficiency was not very good in football. Like it was like this huge actual lump of pigskin that you could barely grip. So,
were you there to see it? That's cool.
Joe was covering the game.
Oh, wow.
Now, come on. It was on the newsreels in the 40s when I went to the theater with my mommy.
Yes. That's going to do it for us today here on the program. We'll be back with more thrilling content tomorrow at 6 a.m. Darren Donick and Chase coming up next. This is ESPN 102.5 The Game.